Hey, everybody, welcome back to episode 31 of Uncomfy Truths because somebody has to say it. I am your co host, Conservative Brother Daily, here with Conspiracy Brother. Got a really
Hey, hey,
big show for you guys. Can you hear me?
Yes,
All right, all right. How's everybody doing out there?
great.
Good, good. All right, we got Not Rocket Science Brother who's back with us. How you doing, good sir? Welcome back again.
Outstanding, gentlemen. Good to be with.
All right, man. Great to have new and old faces back here with us. So really quick, once again, guys, we're coming up on just past 30 episodes. We got a lot of things to talk about. I apologize. I was the one running a little late, as far as getting our show going. I think we may have Nun Dare Call It Conspiracy joining us. She's just running a little late. But yeah, conspiracy brother. Anything you want to just maybe before I pull up the first topic, anything you want to talk about or just really reflect on before we dive in?
um, I don't know. I don't know if we'll cover the Joy, not Joy Ann Reed. So their personalities blend together so much. But Angela Rye and Jill Stein and Bruce Ware on the Breakfast Club, they had about an hour long. It was supposed to be an interview of Jill Stein and Bruce Ware or Butch Ware, sorry, and it ended up kind of being a debate between Angela Rye, who was for some reason a guest, a fill-in host, and Jill Stein and Butch Ware. So that will be something interesting, I think, to look at and talk about. But that's about it for me.
Okay, great. And I just want to also welcome back Not Rocket Science Brother before we dive into. We've got a lot of topics and stuff to cover tonight. Anything you'd like to tell the audience or anything going on in your world?
No, man, just trying to stay on top of the news. A lot of disheartening and invigorating things at the same time. So I hope to maybe touch on and offer my perspective on a few of those. And just getting back into the move of things. So I appreciate you having me on.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And also, we got a special guest joining us, God's Child. He is an author. He's definitely someone who's kind of a family friend of mine, and I definitely wanted to kind of bring him in to kind of give some perspective, his own perspective on things going on. And once again, God's Child, you're more than welcome to share, stuff about you if you want to reveal your name or a little bit about your book. Just a little bit before we dive in here into the specific topics of the day. Uh, Whenever you're ready.
Yes, my name is Terrence Lake. Actually,
Yep.
I'm a friend of Hayward's mother. We grew up together in Hamtramck. I'm the author of the book God's Child. Hayward actually did the trailer and the book interview for me here in Detroit about, what was that, 3 years ago or 2 years ago? And I'm trying to promote it. I want to turn it into a major motion picture because books are good to read, but a lot of people don't read. But if you put a picture on the screen, you can really get your message across. They can see what you're talking about. So that's my mission in life, to leave a heavenly environment on this planet before I get out of here.
Yes, sir. Great words. Great words. Good to have you here, and welcome to the collective. So, really quick, we just gotta do a quick plug, and we're gonna dive right into the topics. So, conspiracy brother, if you could help me out here. Once again, guys, you're watching Uncomfy Truths. So, I got my screen share up, conspiracy brother, and I could do a quick plug for everybody. Let me know when you're ready.
Give me 1 second.
Yep.
It's just yes. I don't see it. Maybe you have to. Yeah, there we go.
All right, try it now. Okay, cool. All right, cool. So once again, we are Uncomfy Truths. We are a political long form commentary podcast. We have episodes bi-weekly. about twice a month, usually on Saturdays, Sundays, been Sunday as of late. And we offer all types of political leaning perspectives. We have people that are left, center, right, and we all kind of come together because more than ever with record level censorship, record level sort of demonization of one side or the other, it's good that we can kind of come together with different collectives, different experiences, and really voice going on. So we got a new little channel back photo up on our Rumble channel. Just due to things with censorship, we're just not on YouTube, but here's our Rumble channel. We've been kind of growing a little bigger following here on Rumble, which is a little bit more free speech friendly. We're also here on YouTube. Let me go over to our YouTube channel. Right over here. So obviously on YouTube, our audience is a little bit smaller. And once again, we live stream right now on Rumble and YouTube. And then finally, guys, we also have a Odyssey. Odyssey is a little bit newer. A lot of people don't know about it, but we're kind of chugging along on it. A little weird about thumbnails, or maybe I need to update my browser. But either way it goes, we're streaming on all those platforms. So once again, you can look up Uncomfy Truths, Politics Talk on Odyssey, YouTube, and then finally Rumble. All right, y'all. So let's go ahead and dive in. Big topic of the day. We had another. They tried to come for Orange Man again. They shots were fired. So apparently this has been breaking just this afternoon. There was another. Not to make light of serious subject matter, but there was another attempt on President Trump's life. These shots were fired outside of the Palm Beach Golf Club. Some early reports were saying Mar-a-Lago, but we're confirmed it's this other resort. So apparently Trump may have been nowhere near what happened. I don't have a whole lot of insight. Now they're kind of saying, there's sort of some sources, including Newsweek, which is a little more center. That's a little more fair. They have this. They apparently have this potential suspect. But I'm gonna before because we're not trying to just Fox News, MSNBC, or CNN. We try and find the most center, at least that's going to be a little fair with the bias. But I can start off with reading this Newsweek one. But before I dive into this article, anybody want to maybe share anything they may have read up on this or any updates? Because this was just breaking a few hours ago.
I can. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Yeah.
So I'll just kind of chime in because I did listen to two different reports on my way in. Okay. So it was interesting because, of course, the media has already broadcasted this out immediately about shots fired and attempted assassination. These are the two key phrases, right? What really played out to become the reality is that unlike the last situation, there were no shots fired by the assassin, so to speak. What has played out is that the Secret Service actually did a better job this time relative to catching the perpetrator. And during the briefing, they actually made some very important clarity statements around the amount of security that was present and whether or not that security was reasonable for the situation at hand and also for Trump as the former president who's also a current candidate. But all in all, essentially, we had a guy who somehow got to the perimeter of the golf course, Trump International Golf Course, I believe is what it's called. And he was literally in a bush with a long range rifle pointing through the fence. And so the Secret Service tends to stay ahead of the president in these situations to kind of scan and scope and clear the holes ahead of him as they're working their way down the golf course. And they caught this guy. They seen the guy, they seen the rifle sticking out the bush. And so the shots fired were actually from the Secret Service agent firing at the assailant in the bush. And so that was the first shot. And as those shots were fired, immediately that assailant dropped everything and ran, and he hopped in a car and took off. Apparently somebody noticed him, and they took pictures of not only the car, but they took picture of the license plate. And so this car made it all the way almost to the next county. I think it actually got into the next county, and because they had the license plate, they put out the BOL, and they caught this guy with the car. Everything matched up. They even had the witness who took the pictures. They flew him to that precinct where he was caught and had him identify this person. So they do have a suspect. They did have someone who had the gun in the bush. That was that same suspect, as far as they can tell right now. And he did not get off a single shot toward anyone that we are aware of, or that anyone has been able to report. He did not definitely make a shot at the former president at this time. The president was safe. He is good. But they do have an actual bona fide suspect in custody, alive. There's pretty good connection between him and the weapon in the bush. And the one thing about how he got away, so to speak, or that how he got close to the golf course, is that they made a distinction that because he's not well, and this distinction is interesting, and I don't want to try to overdo it, but because he is not the current president, his service, his protection is actually, it's not as big in terms of the space that they cover, right? And it wasn't a rally, right? So it wasn't even like it was a big event that they needed to protect. It was just them at the golf course, so to speak, doing something. I'm not sure exactly what that event was, but they didn't, fence off the entire golf course. So there was essentially an ability of someone to get to the location this guy got to, and it would not have been insurmountable for anyone to do that. That was not a violation of any protocol that the Secret Service had. So for the particular type of event. So it's very interesting. They did pretty much exactly as they were supposed to do. And that's what I know at this time.
Wow. Great breakdown. Not rocket science, brother. I appreciate that insight. I'm probably going to dive into the article a little bit, but definitely God's Child, if you wanted to kind of weigh in on the news of this new assassination attempt on the former president, maybe your thoughts of the situation. God's Child, if you want to chime in.
No attempt on Trump.
Can you say that again, please?
Yeah. God's Child, if you wanted to just weigh in on this news on this new assassination attempt on Trump. Not rocket science, brother. Kind of gave a brief breakdown of it. Maybe your thoughts on it. Any additional perspectives you have, kind of on this recent wave of political violence. Whatever your thoughts are on this article, on this story.
Well, being that it's the second attempt and it's just not a fluke on the first shooter, there's a lot of people that's, got an attitude at Trump, and the brother rocket science, he did a very well, report on the news that he heard. He drew a very good picture of him getting away and then getting caught and all that, So, hey, there's not too much I can say because I didn't hear anything. I'm just going by what the brother was talking about. Heard something, but, on a radio on the way here, but it wasn't much. But it was really thorough from rocket science.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. That's why we got, it's what our team's here for,
Yes.
all different perspectives. So, Conspiracy Brother, you can go ahead and weigh in, and then we can maybe read this Newsweek article if it has any additional perspective we may need. But yeah, Conspiracy Brother, go ahead and give your thoughts on this recent assassination attempt again.
Yeah, so I found this article. I think I was looking at a video of might have been like a highlight of the Lions game or something. And I saw this breaking news in the corner, and I kind of just didn't pay attention to it. And then I saw it said assassination. And so I thought it was or assassination attempt. And I kind of thought maybe this was old, and so I clicked it and I read it and I kind of sent it to my family. And all I'll say, keeping true to my name, is that this is kind of fishy to me. Because what tends to happen, and but I think by now most of the audience knows my position, but what tends to happen with white liberals and some black liberals can get caught up in this too, but especially white liberals, is they have tried to create this situation where Trump is like the most evil person to have ever existed. And as I've said on the show before, he's not even the most evil president, because we've had presidents who have owned people. So when you own people, you're automatically in a different tier of vile and disgustingness. So, you know, automatically he's in a different level. And then you think about, you know, people, in my opinion, like Ronald Reagan, like George Bush, like, you know, Woodrow Wilson, right? I believe Woodrow Wilson may be the most evil president we had in the picture era, in the film era. You know, Andrew Johnson might be neck and neck in them, and since cameras have been around. But George Bush or Ronald Reagan are 1A and 1B in my mind for the most evil presidents we've had. We got Nun Dare joining. Most evil presidents we've had in the color TV era, right? And so it isn't to say that I think everything Trump has done up to this point is good, or that I agree with even a majority of his positions. But the way that people have tried to overstate how impactful he has been to the global community and to the nation as a whole, in spite of a history in this country of slavery, of genocide of the native population, of forced relocation of the native population, and the native Hispanic or Mexican population, even of the French who occupied this land to varying degrees. You know, understanding that we had presidents who have been instrumental in, you know, manifest destiny and continental conquest. And then to say that Trump is the new Hitler or the new Stalin or the new Mussolini, it's weird to me. You know, George Bush is responsible for the death of 1 million Iraqi civilians. Okay, non-combatants, women, children, old people. And that's just one thing, right? Not talking about the effects of the Patriot Act, how many people have been indefinitely detained as a result of Bush era policy. George Bush and Dick Cheney admitted to the U.S. having a torture program. And so, you know, this hyperbolic statements about Trump and how disgusting and evil and whatever, I think at face value, it feeds into this behavior from unstable individuals. But two, what it does is it completely undermines any legitimate argument that these people may have against Trump or his policies, you know, that are legitimately harmful or at the very least not beneficial for the American citizens, irrespective of whether they are black, white, or whatever. And so, you know, on the face of it, it seems fishy to me. They have caught this guy, so I guess we'll get a chance to hear the story and see what is made of it. I didn't know any of this information, his name or the Ukraine connection. So this is another interesting facet to this, because you've essentially had this man operate as a soldier of fortune in Eastern Europe at the behest of the U.S. government and, you know, the West/NATO. And now he's coming home because he has been so brainwashed to believe that America has some type of moral or financial obligation to maintain stability or normalcy to whatever degree possible in Ukraine against Russia. And I'll stop there.
Woo, conspiracy brother, just keep just throwing on the levels, man. Like a fire
Hold on,
hose.
look. Let me poke it. Let me poke in here real quick. Wait a minute. Conspiracy brother, could you? What was the Ukraine plug? I'm sorry, I missed that part. What's this Ukraine thing has something to do with the?
Yeah. So if you go back to the Newsweek article, conservative brother, it said,
oh, okay,
that he fought in Ukraine. He had a history of violent crime. Scroll down. Yeah. See, would-be Trump assassin fought in Ukraine and supports the war. Ruth supports Ukraine, whatever, and fought. So past criminal offenses. So he's definitely a weird guy, right?
Oh,
And I mean,
wow.
just to
That's an
just to
understatement.
well, yes, that's a very big understatement. But I know the Democrats like using that word lately, so I figured I'd throw them a bone. But just like the Buffalo shooter had Nazi ideology, I wouldn't even call it neo-Nazi because the through line from Hitler to current Ukraine is evident if you look. So the Buffalo shooter had Nazi ideology. He went to Ukraine. He supported the Ukrainians because they have a history of supporting the Nazis in Germany. One of their idols, I've talked about on a couple different shows, and in this show, Stepan Bandera was a Nazi collaborator with the SS. So, I mean, this is just another example of when we talked about on our other show about John Conyers in 2015 or 2016, I believe it was 15, voting not to give weapons to Ukraine because of the Nazis, and then him mysteriously being Me Too'd out of government. And then the next year, we authorized to send money to Ukraine. So again, this is, in the words of Malcolm, this is America's chickens coming home to roost in so many ways. But we never seem to learn those lessons. And so it just becomes something that destroys the people because ultimately we suffer from those, the fallout of these situations.
Cooking, man. Conspiracy brother, you cooking. I noticed we had Nun Dare Call It Conspiracy. She had hopped on and then I guess she dropped off for whatever reason. But anybody else want to touch on this Trump assassination development? If not, we can move on to the next topic. But I think
I'll say
Conspiracy
one more
brother
thing.
kind of, go right ahead.
I'll say one more thing. I believe, and I could be wrong, maybe they changed it, but when George Bush, I believe it was like his last year of presidency, Congress voted, and I can look it up. I could look it up, but I'm not. Maybe I will, but I'm not right now. But Congress voted to remove lifetime Secret Service protection from presidents, and it was only going to last 10 years. And then after Obama won presidency, they changed it back to, lifetime protection. As far as I know, Trump still has lifetime protection. I don't know that they have reinstated the protection for George Bush and his family. As far as I know, they have not. And so without causing our channel too many problems and any problems for anybody on the panel, isn't it interesting that you haven't had any of these situations happen with George Bush or Dick Cheney, but you've had it happen with Trump twice within a span of months? That this has happened twice, and George Bush has never happened once.
And let's not forget 2016. There was a guy at one of his rallies in 2016 before the election that attempted to grab the gun off of somebody or a rifle and shoot him. So this is three times. It's a three-peat.
Right.
We're now in a three-peat.
Right. And so that's interesting to me, given, even Bill Clinton, we could go through a list of the atrocities that he committed nationally and internationally. And as yet, that I'm aware of, there has been no attempts on his life. So that's all just very peculiar to me. And I'll stop there. I won't say anything else.
I'll add into that is what we realize by this is that with the horrible acts that our presidents past have presided over abroad, but then we talk about things that are perceived by some people that Trump has committed domestically, we can clearly see that American citizens care nothing about what we do in the rest of the world. They care everything about what they are told, for true or not, about what's happening here. And the scary thing is that a lot of citizens have not enough wherewithal to figure out the truth or to understand the difference between the truth and something that's been exaggerated. They don't put in the effort. So they're easily led astray. They're easily duped, and they're led by their emotions. So that's how you get people who are literally throwing, each other overboard over Trump. But then we go and do some of the most horrible same things in other people's countries, and they, yawn and go to sleep.
Whew, good stuff, gentlemen. All right, we're gonna move on. Nun Dare Call It Conspiracy should be joining us momentarily. Next topic: the Trump-Harris first debate reactions. Once again, I always like to joke. But besides a bad movie, presidential debates are always 2 hours of your life you're never gonna get back. And the debate last week was no exception. The first square off between Trump, Republican nominee, and then Democrat Kamala Harris. So it would have been the top for tonight. Of course, we had the assassination situation earlier today. So yeah, let's go ahead. If it's still fresh in your heads, obviously some things we can never unsee. I'd like to go ahead and kick it off with God's Child. Would you like to give us your thoughts on this Trump Harris debate? Maybe who won it? Does it matter? And just your general thoughts, God's Child.
Okay. Well, my general thoughts, you know, I don't particularly care for Trump because he's a very intimidating person. He never seems to smile and he intimidates a lot of people. And I think that's why he's having so many problems with, people in society, you know. And if he had a better demeanor with his, attitude, I don't think it would be as bad. I mean, people are going to be for somebody and against somebody. That's just natural. But it's just something about Trump, is like he just doesn't sit well with my spirit. So that's my opinion.
Okay, that's fair. I got a couple, thoughts on that. But not rocket science, brother. What are your thoughts on the debate? I
Yeah,
know we talked a little bit about this on the other show, but feel free to,
yeah.
chime
Let
in.
me. So
Yeah.
the debate is really interesting. Unfortunately, right? It's a it's the debate is supposed to be something that it was not, in the sense that it's supposed to be kind of a actual uh open forum, public square of dissecting and also engaging over constructive, substantive analysis and discussion between candidates over their policy positions, right? You're literally supposed to put the things that they have head to head as well as their visions, right? This is supposed to be, like they say, a debate. So you're supposed to be able to defend, supposed to be able to offer your position and defend your position. And if you have to, in a sense, you should also kind of pick apart the other's position, in a sense, right? That's why they're defending. What we found ourselves with in that debate was mostly um, we had two different characters on stage. We had canned messaging from Kamala Harris on top of uh, very vague policy proposals. And then from Trump, we had basically a platform of defensiveness. And also, unfortunately, he got caught up in a lot of tricks that he bit the bait on and went in to defend himself, in a sense. And well, it looked bad. It looked really bad because
Mm.
he was basically being taunted essentially on stage. It was a mess overall. There was no constructive engagement between these two candidates that really benefited the American public. And so what we seen was more of the same overall. We seen a candidate on one side who has a questionable history in terms of their political successes and not defending themselves appropriately has not moved the needle. That would be Miss Harris. And then on the other side, we have a candidate that was actually a former president that also needs to explain to America why they need to be president again and offer, again, policy and most importantly, prescriptive instruction as to what they're going to go through to make this country better or great again, so to speak, as he says. And that really wasn't spelled out. In fact, he mostly spent his time harping on different problems in American life right now without really getting deeper into how he would resolve them to a degree that I think could move the needle for people who were on the fence. And unfortunately, in addition, on his side, he, spoke on some things that were kind of unbelievable to the public. You know, we talk about the whole cats and dogs getting eaten in Springfield situation, right? The pets, that whole thing. I tell you, when I was sitting on the couch watching this debate, I almost couldn't believe that he said it. I was just, shaking my head, and I was felt bad because, that's not going to go away. I knew that was going to be something that was not going to go over well.
Oh yeah.
And then I did hear a little bit of the news coverage about it, and I kind of understand where it came from. But, the media apparatus right now, I think, is biased against this guy in most cases. They're not. And so, it was not going to get very far without blowing up in his face. So, again, nobody really benefited from this. The one thing I will say, though, that was a positive for either of the candidates is that Kamala was able to show America she had a little bit more demeanor competency and poise in her delivery than she had before. And someone once hypothesized on another show I watched that she did pretty well in this debate, relatively speaking, because she treated it as if it was a litigation, right? She has a legal background, having been in that space in California, so she can present a argument to a audience that's a reasonable size in a courtroom. She kind of took it in that approach, right? She was kind of prosecutor for the hour and a half on stage. So I think that was good for her, but I don't think anybody walked away with anything new about either of these folks outside of, unfortunately, the runaway stories from some of the things that Trump spoke on, because there are absolutely no stories about anything that came out of Kamala's mouth. They're all about what Trump said.
All right. Great perspective. Not rocket science, brother. I'm gonna tap right in. I'm gonna give a little perspective, my own perspective. I know Nun Dare just came back. I will say, once again, I kind of agree that, when people end up watching this debate, most people are either hate watching it for Trump or they're kind of just rooting for their home team. You're not really going to get a lot of different swayness. Um, I will also say, just to kind of, we did share this in our group chat. There was this ABC News whistleblower. Once again, some things have been confirmed, some others haven't, that Kamala possibly did receive the questions ahead of time. There's some other rumors going around that she had like an earpiece and an earring. I'm not sure if that's really confirmed or credible, but we can't at least acknowledge that there has been some sort of 3-on-1, like it was like a 3-on-1 debate. These three moderators against Kamala. Um, and also, too, I know, God's Child, you mentioned earlier about kind of Trump's demeanor and everything going on. Once again, I'm not, I'm probably the biggest fan of Trump on here, but at the same time, I've done plenty of criticism. I've blasted him plenty of times on different policies, on different things he's done. But I will kind of say, from like a Trump's demeanor perspective, I want to at least put out there as a perspective, at the end of the day, the second Trump came down the elevator in 2015, the media was all against him, against his agenda, against everything. And basically, for him to even the accomplishments, if we can even admit that Trump got right, even though he got a lot of stuff wrong in his first term, there were some things he got right, and the media could never even give him a bone. It was Trump's evil, Trump everything. So I think eventually, just the years of, almost 2 years of that beat down on you, it almost comes to a place, once again, where Trump has to almost brag about his accomplishments, because if he says one thing, the media reports the other. So I can see how for some people, when they kind of get caught up in, I don't like the way Trump said this or his demeanor with that, I think we're kind of missing maybe part of, okay, what did he do get right? Okay, we didn't start up any new wars. Okay, he ended up passing unlimited funding for HBCUs, that they didn't have to go back to DC every single year. There were, once again, the opportunity zones he passed with Senator Scott in Virginia. There was also the some of the record low unemployment, obviously low inflation, those sort of things. So these are very basic things. You can at least admit that it wasn't as bad as it was now under Biden. But when the media is constantly like not even giving him a bone to that, of course, and naturally, if you're doing one thing and then whoever at your job is just telling you, no, you're wrong, you did this, eventually it's kind of like, well, let me get in on this microphone and say what I did, because the media is not going to report that. And then the last thing I'll mention, once again, this is probably the most I'll ever defend Trump, during the show. Um, when it comes to his general demeanor, think about it as kind of like a bedside manner of a doctor. I like to think of sometimes uh, most, some Democrats, current Democrat candidates, even some past Republican candidates like a John McCain or Mitt Romney. They're kind of like the doctor that comes in and you're maybe overweight, you have diabetes, or you have cancer, and they say, hey, you know what? Everything's going to be just fine. Everything's going to be just fine. Eat some more candy. Don't let anyone say what you can't have and eat. You can eat as much as you want. You can eat as much tea as you want, not exercise. You're going to be just fine. You just do you, boo, and here's some more candy. And then next thing you know, 6 months later, that person's dead. Versus you got the doctor that walks in like, hey, look, you're fat as all get out. You're going to die in 2 months. You need to stop eating this, do that, and we need to do this, or we need to have this surgery and cut this part out. So that's kind of the bedside manner or demeanor, if you will, of Trump, where once again, this guy, what the media doesn't talk about, he crossed the North Korea militarized zone and met Kim Jong Un. No president has ever done that. There's some things I can get him on. I can admire about Trump, but yeah, there's some things about him. Operation Warp Speed, him not firing Dr. Fauci, him supporting a coup in Bolivia. There's a lot of legitimate things with Trump I can criticize while at least acknowledging the things he got right. So I like to say that to say, once again, when it comes to demeanor or bedside manner, I'd rather have a doctor is somebody who's straight to the point. This is what we need to do. And it's a little rough around the edges. But at the same time, I'm not pointing this out to anybody particular. I don't want a president who's my friend, who makes me feel good, who says the right things. I want someone who can get the job done. And while Trump has done a lot of things I don't agree with, that I still criticize him on daily, I'll at least acknowledge the things that he's gotten right, even if he doesn't have the best bedside manner. So I just want to kind of throw that out there. None dare call it conspiracy. You go ahead. None dare, or whoever wants to tap in. I just want to kind of throw that out there, or conspiracy, brother.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yep, you're on. Welcome
Yep,
back.
loud and
Okay,
clear.
good. Because I'm driving and I was on a dirt road. That's why I couldn't. Because I thought I would be finished working by the time you guys started, but I wasn't. I was in Holly. So now I'm on the freeway headed home. So what I came in and then I had to leave out. So what we're talking about Trump and the second assassination or what
Yeah,
was
you could
what
touch. Yeah, you can. Yeah, we you just got finished talking about the second or the third assassination attempt, second this year. So if you have any thoughts on that, and then we were just talking about the Harris Trump debate from last week. So either one of those you want to touch
Oh,
on?
okay. So
Yeah.
first let me speak on Jezebel. Jezebel did not answer any questions. She has no policy. And any she so between the two candidates, one is gonna give us more time and the other is gonna take us straight to demise. And she is going to take us straight to demise for the simple fact I cannot imagine her talking to Putin, North Korea, or China. The only woman who I can't stand her either that they will respect is Hillary Clinton because Hillary Clinton is very masculine. So and she has a lot of murders behind her. So Hillary Clinton, yes, they are going to demolish her, and the United States will be hit under her leadership. Listen, so they are NATO approved for Ukraine to use those long-term missiles, and those will be United States. And don't think Putin is coming. And yes, war will be on our land. It's going to be under her. It's definitely coming. They do not respect her. She will not be respected on a world stage. I don't respect her now. Now, if I was an AKA, of course I would stand by her. But me and my grandmother probably wouldn't even be talking now because she was a golden sore, and I never pledged after I found out about the Black Boule and the Divine Nine. And that's another thing. So I'm gonna leave that there. She part of the Black Boule, and that's just what it is. She's not for the people. She's a chameleon. She is what she need to be when she need to be it. But I think she dumber than a bag of rocks. Now, with that being said, what was the Trump.
Yeah, the assassination earlier today.
Yeah,
Assassination attempt.
but
Yeah.
I thought the guy was from Ukraine. Maybe I read that wrong. I put it on my
No,
YouTube
he
for five
was.
minutes.
There was a Newsweek article. He was from Ukraine, or supporter
Exactly.
of
So,
Ukraine or
so
something.
with that being said, so that's your CIA, your FB, your CIA right there. I mean, come on, your CIA assassinated. It's plenty of assassinations and coups that they have done in the past that they continue to do. And I put that on my YouTube today. They just tried to assassinate Maduro in Venezuela, but they got caught. Maduro, and that was like what, a few days ago. And so now Maduro has a Navy SEAL, two other American soldiers, and he has wait a minute, uh, two Spaniards and one. Dang, I forgot where the other guy from. Anyway, he got six people detained. So it's gonna be interesting. And so your government came out today and said, yeah, they're aware of the situation. But the CIA even admitted to with Freeway Ricky Ross putting cocaine in the black community, the Iran Contra war in the 80s under Reagan with Freeway Ricky Ross, all that was true. So, yeah, so we know that assassination tip is governmental, just point blank, it is. And I think with that being said, he need to be very careful. But Hayward, to your comment, I do want to say that he also did the Step Act, which freed a lot of our brethren out of prison. You know, whether guilty or not guilty. Kwame Kilpatrick got freed because of Trump. So, you know, I think that's all I got to say for the moment.
All right. Any rebuttals or conspiracy, brother? You haven't gone yet. Your thoughts on the Trump Harris debate? 2 hours of our life we're never getting back, but we gotta do an autopsy nonetheless. So what you got?
Well, since you put it that way, I was thinking today, like, the interesting part about life is that no matter what, whether it's good or bad, you got to go through it. So, 5 years of torture is 5 years older, just like 5 years of pleasure. And so, in that way, we can kind of at least admire the fact that throughout the span of our lives, 2 hours is just a blink. But the night of the debate, I came away thinking that neither of them would really move the needle one way or the other, right? I thought that it was peculiar that Kamala Harris appeared to gain a little bit more comfort as the night went on. She didn't talk like herself at all. I was watching a clip earlier today on Tim Black's show, and she was being interviewed by somebody on MSNBC, Mika Brzezinski or somebody, and they were asking her questions about race. And she is just so bad at talking, just off the cuff, that she almost had to be like dragged through the conversation because they were asking her something about Trump and the Haiti situation, and she was, dividing the country up along racial lines, and she couldn't put a sentence. I don't know. Obama did that a lot, where he would talk, and it would seem like he was so conscious of his words that he couldn't talk, just in a stream of consciousness kind of way. Like he just wanted to make sure he said everything and kind of amended every possible interpretation of what he was saying. But she doesn't have the ability to even do that, where he has kind of just easygoing conversation sometimes. And during the debate, I can't really recall. If I look at it again, I could point it out. But I could say after the break, maybe 40 minutes into it, she seemed to get really comfortable in a way that is uncharacteristic of her as I followed her, from her time in the Senate to now. And even, seeing old clips of her from 2013, 2012, whatever. And a lot of times it did seem like Trump wasn't able to stay on task. And the task was to, prosecute a case against the Democratic Party, specifically the Biden administration, because she is a part of that administration, whether or not she wants to accept blame, because, some of her surrogates, was Bakari Sellers, or whether it was, I forget the other guy's name. He's bald, black, is on MSNBC a lot, not Charles Blow. The other guy, Keith Boykin. He was saying that what she needs to do is to take credit for all the positive things in the Biden administration, right? But don't take any of the blame for all the negatives. And so one of the other commentators was saying that's not possible. But so she doesn't possess any of that.
I want to throw something in there. I want to throw something out there. Does anybody think, which I mentioned earlier, there's been leaks that have come out? Apparently, ABC News whistleblower, I don't know if anybody's debunked that or if it's really true, that Kamala was fed the questions. And also, did anybody notice it kind of seemed like a 3-on-1 debate, kind of the same way they sort of set up the June debate for Biden to take the fall? It seems like they coordinated. It seemed a little coordinated. I just want to throw that out to anybody, a conspiracy brother as well.
See, I think you missed a very valid point. Lindsay Davis is an AKA as well. Yes, she was fed those questions.
I heard about that.
Yes, she was. And also, that's why she was familiar with everything. And then the head of ABC is her good friend as well. Yes, she was fed those questions. And those earrings that you're saying, they're called Nova ring earrings, and they are earbuds, and it looked exact. If you go on Nova ring, you can look at the earring piece, and it does look like that. So, but yeah, I definitely believe she was fed the questions. That's why she was comfortable, because if you look at her second interview, solo interview by herself, she bombed. She was awful. And this is what I'm saying. Can you imagine her handling foreign policy? Hell no. Hell no. She will not be respected. I'm telling you, it'll be awful. And she's bad for business. High business tech. Businesses will be fleeing America. They'll move everything overseas. Um, and she's a chameleon. She's a liar. I have never seen an administration that blatantly lies. And the fact that they only fact check Trump, and in that affidavit with the whistleblower, if it is true, which makes sense, that they only fact checked him and not her.
Oh yeah, I was fact checking live
I
during the debate.
definitely do believe that she got fed the questions. Okay, I'm gonna mute up because I'm still driving.
All right, conspiracy brother, didn't mean to interject. I just want to throw that out there.
Oh, no problem. But so I guess that was one of my assessments. He didn't really prosecute a case, against the Democratic Party, the Biden administration, as properly. I do believe that it was more of a 3-on-1. Glenn Greenwald has a breakdown video of the debate where he talks about how essentially ABC News weaponized the fact checking, because they fact checked Trump, but when she would say something that was blatantly wrong or false, things that contradicted things that Trump was saying in the debate, for example, like, I don't know anything about Project 2025, I don't support it, I have my own policy. When she would still say something about him and Project 2025, the fact checkers never said anything to her about it. When she lied about, I'm forgetting. So what it does is it gives a perception that she isn't lying. And all politicians lie. It's not even a political party or ideology. They all just lie. It's almost a condition of employment. But, on top of the Lindsay Davis, I guess is her name, being an AKA, I was a Bernie supporter in 16 and 20. In 20, I knew that he was full of it. I learned that from the way he handled the 2016 situation. But, I held out hope that maybe he would grow a spine this time around. So I was a Bernie supporter. And I remember, Donna Brazile, when she was working at CNN, fed Hillary Clinton debate questions
Oh,
for
yeah.
2016, right?
Yep.
That was why she was let go from CNN, because they claimed, that it undermined their integrity.
And Roland Martin got fired from CNN. I think Roland Martin got fired from TV1 because he did the same thing. He leaked the questions of Hillary's team in 2016. He got fired from TV1.
Right. And so, that was one of the reasons Tulsi Gabbard got out of the DNC. There was a lot of information broken about how the donations given to the DNC will be funneled to Hillary Clinton first, and then she would give some money back in some kind of weird web of money sharing or whatever, weird accounting. But I say all that to say you can't put anything past these people, right? And so the whole media apparatus is against Trump. And like one of the commenters said on our show, the media is so blatantly anti-Trump that you look like a Trump supporter just by having to state objective facts. And so, I'm not particularly a Trump supporter. I don't have, any disproportionate hatred for Trump. But, you can see how things are being manipulated, things are being swayed in the way that they are. And when I look back, well, I won't even say that, but when you look online, I wonder what the impact would be long term. When you look online, what you see people posting are things that support what Donald Trump said during the debate. They're making memes about things. They're posting news clips. They're posting firsthand accounts, police body cam footage. So I think one of the reasons why they want to censor the internet, TikTok, and all those things is because they can't control the ability of people to share what is happening in the real world in their daily lives. So I think the debate may have benefited Trump even still, because of the way that the media and the online reaction has been to everything he said and everything she said, even with the earrings potentially being listening devices.
All right. Yeah, good points, everybody. Good perspectives. Once again, guys, quick shameless plug. Once again, you guys are watching Uncomfy Truths, political talk. We do live streams bi-weekly, usually on Sundays. So some of our commentators you see on the live show, we got a new banner up here. Follow us on Rumble. Here's our Rumble channel. We're also streaming live on YouTube and also Odyssey. Got a few thumbnails we got to fill in over there. All right. So our next topic, once again, I feel like it might be appropriate. This also had to, unfortunately, I, somebody has to say it to talk about it. Unfortunately, there was a shooting at the Detroit Lions Eastern Market. There was 2 shot, 1 dead. Obviously, Detroit Lions have been having a really big amazing 2 seasons of a lot of momentum, a lot of energy for the city. So, this is more local, not as big national news. So I know, at first I was a little hesitant to touch on this because like, oh, why put Detroit in a bad light and all that? But at the same time, if we have enough love for our city, we can also take a look at, okay, some of the ugliness, but at the same time, there's more light than dark, if you will. But unfortunately, they've been doing like a series of tailgating at Eastern Market. This happened like right after a Lions game, and obviously, Detroit has been, the city over the past few years has definitely gone through, its transformation, midtown, downtown. Call it gentrification, call it, new Detroit, whatever it is. Um, But I wanted to know if anybody either had any thoughts or like, oh man, just conservative brother, move on to the next topic, or just any perspective just on kind of this situation, as unfortunate as it was, because once again the city's been kind of on a tear lately, or if anybody's heard anything about this happening this afternoon.
Yes, I heard what happened. I actually don't have any. Oh shoot! Hold on, let me pull this window up. Hold on, let me put this on. Yeah, I actually don't have any comment other than you talking about the guy that got shot in his head at the tailgating thing today.
They
Hello, is
broke out with a suspect is in his 30s and was a CPL holder. So I don't know if there's anything strategic about them releasing that. Like, oh, he was a CPL holder, so
no?
why is that
I don't think
specifically
that
being mentioned? You know?
yeah, I don't think they released he was a CPL holder. I don't think they said
No,
that
that
yet.
was on the article. I shared like a channel 7 where they did mention that. Um, so
Oh, you did? Okay, because I just
yeah.
heard about it while I was on the road. So my son was telling me about it. But no, I actually don't have any thoughts about it. I mean, I just chucked it up as, and it's kind of sad that I'm so desensitized when it comes to violence that
Hmm.
just, it happens every day in the city, in every major city. So I really didn't, and that's sad to say, but I really don't have any thoughts about it at all. And that's sad. I'm
Yeah, and
so
even the
desensitized to crime that, you know.
yeah, and that's the sad part because even with Chicago, I mean, we can't hold a light to Chicago as far as the amount of shootings every weekend of black and brown, mainly black men, and just really the fact that the media either doesn't want to cover that because it's not sensational enough because maybe it wasn't a white cop killing a black guy, but obviously we don't compare anything close to what Chicago numbers are, But at the same time, I wanted to at least sort of, you know, throw that out there. If anybody else had anything to say on, I know it's not the most uplifting topic,
Yeah,
but
no, I can just chime in on it real quick.
yeah, go right
I'll
ahead.
be
Yeah.
honest, I don't have a bunch of data on it, but I did happen to run across a post on social media actually a couple weeks ago that was, I guess, a PSA to Detroiters to try to, maintain decorum and a reasonable level
Hmm.
of approach at these tailgates at Eastern Market, because they understand that people like them, they have a lot of fun and what have you, but at the same time, this has happened before where I believe these had been held in some location or even Eastern Market years past, and they got shut down because of essentially violence and problems. And that one, actually, I remember now, that particular um, PSA was about litter. It was just about litter,
Hmm.
but it can extend with the same issue all the way to, unfortunately, violence and things of that nature. And so I think a lot of Detroiters are aware that there's risk inherent whenever there's a gathering of a large amount of people
Hmm.
in the city, unfortunately, especially people who are local and are really passionate about the city, really passionate about the Lions. And so these things come up because the nature of Detroit, right? You mentioned Chicago. Here, I'm gonna make a very unfortunate parallel.
Hmm.
I went to Memphis a couple months ago, and they have a section, called Beale Street. When they really get Beale Street popping in the evening, they do something that was very familiar to me that I only seen in Detroit. They put up all sorts of barricades that force you to enter one way and exit another way, and they also put up metal detectors. I was kind of surprised to see that, but I wasn't, because I had seen it in Detroit. And Detroit and Memphis are totally far apart, but they have
Hmm.
something in common, and that commonality is kind of similar with Chicago. So again, when we start looking at this unfortunate situation, it all goes back to the same systemics that we have talked about in the past on various shows and in various areas that I don't care what state or you go to, if you put the right ingredients together, things like this are eventually going to come up from time to time, and it's very unfortunate. And so my fear now is that they are going to lose this space for the
Hmm.
rest of the season, to say the least, right? Because I don't know how anybody could want to go back there in a couple of weeks and just act like nothing happened.
Oh, even next Sunday, yeah, definitely great point. Not rocket science, brother, because once again, it's uncomfortable to talk about. And I even really hesitated, like, should I really even mention this? But we kind of have to go there. We have the hesitation about talking about something uncomfortable. You kind of have to go there. And we've seen this. And once again, this isn't unique to Detroit. I'm not here trying to put shed bad light on the city, but we've seen this from, if you've been a lifelong Detroiter, fireworks at Hart Plaza, or even the Michigan State Fairgrounds back when it was on off of 8 Mile and Woodward at the fairgrounds. So this is nothing new, but at the same time, what has changed? What can be done to improve it? Is this something where we need to take a look at, kind of, okay, culturally, what are we're maybe doing as a people, to where, why does this fight always got to break out? Or what is this potentially ushering in? Not rocket science, brother. Your point on, next thing you know, we have barricades. Next thing you know, we have this bigger police presence. Look at NYC subways, and they now have military guarding the subways. So if anything, that can be a warning sign of, hey, what we're doing, we could maybe be on the path to Chicago, a New York subway. So I kind of put this out as I guess, a cautionary tale, but still wanted to get everybody's thoughts on that. But if anybody had anything else to comment on, we can kind of move on to the next topic. Anyone had
Uh,
anything else?
well, I'll just say, for the sake of saying, it's always unfortunate when these events happen, because Detroit is always under a microscope. I don't know that this will necessarily make national news, but you never can tell. And hopefully, all the perpetrators involved meet whatever form of justice or, punishment, however you want to look at it, that they deserve. Because I hadn't, we had already started. I had already started setting up for the show when you posted the article, and I didn't get a chance to read it because I was kind of running around. But it's always unfortunate for negative attention. But to some degree, as everybody has said, in big cities, it's inescapable. Um, you know, the levels of crime vary based on the tools and the weapons at the disposal of the perpetrators. I was in Europe in June, and it was in Barcelona, and I was told to be mindful of pickpockets, and so in Spain they don't have guns like that, but they will steal your stuff. They'll cut your bags. They'll whatever they can get their hands on, and so it may seem like insignificant by comparison, but as I said, whatever the tools you have at your disposal, and you go to UK where they have knife attacks and stabbings. You just can't kill as many people with a knife as you can with a gun. So it isn't by comparison as dangerous, but it's a significant event for any individual who's been stabbed. So again, unfortunate, and all the best to the victims, and whatever form of justice for all parties involved, I hope is reached to the satisfaction of uh, the law and the families and whoever. So
All right, that's that.
I would like to make one small comment. I'm
Yeah.
a sort of a native Detroiter, and with these tailgating situations, the primary cause of the violence is the alcohol, because you're
Mm,
there 2 and 3 hours before the games start, and people try to drink all they can before they go into the game.
mm,
And that's the primary cause, because alcohol and groups of people just don't mix, especially when you get a diverse group of people, and you might have some people that are from the other team that are there. So Detroit overall is a bunch of great people, but there's always going to be a few bad apples, unfortunately, and that's all over the country.
great words, Godchild. I appreciate that additional insight. All right, y'all. Once again, you're watching Uncomfy Truths. We are on Rumble, live streaming on YouTube, and also Odyssey. All right, our next topic we have. I want to get right into it. Vladimir Putin and Dick Cheney endorsed Kamala. So once again, I know we were kind of, just talking about Trump Harris debate. Um, we can kind of maybe more instead of beating up on Kamala too much, we can maybe hit on Dick Cheney and Putin. They both recently endorsed Kamala. I think Dick Cheney is getting a little more press about that. So I just want to kind of throw that out there. What does everybody think about that? Is Putin playing another shell game, saying he endorses Kamala? Now Dick Cheney's coming out, putting his support. How do people feel about that? I mean,
So I got one.
just
Did Kamala say that Putin
so
endorsed her?
what's that?
Did Kamala speak on the Putin endorsement? Has she spoken on it?
I'm not sure. I can look up Kamala
Yeah, I
Putin
guess.
endorsement.
No, I'm pretty sure. I'm guesstimating. I don't know, honestly. I'm not saying that it's not
Yeah, but
true.
it's a
I'm
lot
just
to
thinking
take
like,
in.
yeah, I guess at the end of the day, right, with everything that she said regarding endorsements and Putin and Trump, I would ask her, and I would also tell many other people that listen, this probably should not make the news. He says it. Oh, let me see. Fact check: Vladimir did endorse Kamala Harris. Some call it mischief making. Yeah.
A little bit of that.
Marie trolls race. Yeah, because like if you talk about Russian interference, Russians messing with our elections, Russia's trying to hack our computers, Russia's doing this to us right now.
Russia, Russia, Russia.
Then and then you actually got the dude who legitimately just goes on TV and says, I support her. Well, there's absolutely no validity to anybody, any nation or any actual foreign nation's leader even speaking on this, right? Honestly, because then that is truly foreign interference. I promise you that if there's any definition of that, don't leave that out of it, right? Because the influence that Putin could have is that he could, like, you got loyal Russian citizens or what have you, or descendants here in the U.S. They might, sway over to Kamala's side because their, president said, go for Kamala. And so I'm kind of like, well, this is purely interference right here, in my opinion. It may not meet the textbook, but honestly, especially since it's coming from Russia, y'all need to not be putting this in the news. This needs to be dead on arrival.
Yeah, I don't know why. They released.
If you really like, this is what we're talking about when it comes to these outlets, right? I actually asked myself a question. I don't even know that any of these media outlets are truly centered. I feel like a lot of them are really left or covert left. And then the right ones are the ones that they push to the bottom of the stack, because with, a left government in place, and especially with, a lot of liberal policies allowing these quote unquote gig economy things to take hold, what we've seen is that they do appreciate listening to the current Democratic leadership. And so they'll let these stories from the right sink to the bottom and the ones from the left rise to the top, just like we heard Zuckerberg, come out about the interference that the administrations had in his company. So this even being a news item is kind of a red herring that, this stuff is totally not central no matter where you look, and it shouldn't have made it this far. That's all I got.
Okay, yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, does a Dick Cheney endorsement, is that going to send more voters flocking to Kamala or away? I mean, God's child, what's your thought? Does Dick Cheney endorsement hurt Kamala or help her based on Dick Cheney's history? What's your
Well, I
thoughts, God's
think
child?
it'll basically help Kamala's, position, because you got a lot of Republicans that are on the fence, and Dick Cheney in the Republican era, when he was, the vice president, so he had a lot of respect from a lot of people. So by him endorsing Kamala, it's going to sway a lot of voters in that direction. And some of the Democrats that are on the fence will recognize that, maybe he's got a good ideal,
Well,
Also, his daughter, committed before him. She might have had something to do with his opinion, but he does have a following.
if you don't, if you don't mind me, just with Dick Cheney though, given his kind of history with at least the warmongering with this Iraq war, the million Iraqis killed. I'm not a big. I don't know if a lot of people are still a big fan of Dick Cheney, even though I feel like a lot of people say, "Well, he's not Trump." But I mean, at the end of the day, I can't say there's still a lot of issues I have with Trump, but I can't say that Trump did half the things that Dick Cheney or George Bush did. You know, so I don't. Does any? I mean, not to push back on you guys, child, but I mean, I don't know. I'm just with Dick Cheney. I'm just not sure if a lot of people
I,
still feel or kind of over what he did or memory hold what he's done. You know, I don't know.
I guess I would
Well,
throw in there that America has a short memory, and a lot of these folks on the ground who are going to be piling in these votes, right? The masses barely even know what Cheney did in their mind, and that's the unfortunate part. What they're going to see is similarly is that there's this prominent guy, Dick Cheney, former vice president or whatever. They know the name to that extent,
right.
and him coming in behind Kamala is just going to look like, wow, I think he's a Republican and he's supporting her. So maybe really maybe we shouldn't support Trump at all, right? Because that's the danger. It's like if you got Republicans coming out and supporting Kamala, so to speak, then other Republicans, like the lay people, are kind of like, well, damn,
Yeah, the
maybe Trump
normies that
isn't
aren't
really,
really
yeah,
paying
they're going
attention
to be
or
like,
yeah,
and that's the fortunate part, right? The normies are so they're so easy to influence and move around. They're like pawns on a chessboard, literally. And so all you need is a couple names. You ain't got nobody significant who has a clean record and has a moral upstanding. No. You got Dick Cheney. But Dick Cheney is a Republican. That's all it takes to move a couple
Right.
pieces on the chessboard, unfortunately. So I'll stop. I just want to add that.
Good point.
great point. Conspiracy brother. Dick Cheney endorses Kamala. What are your thoughts? Lay it on us. Unpack that.
So so um so I think the Putin thing was a troll. I don't think he really cares one way or the other. But I think
Mm.
I think he endorsed Joe Biden. Um I think, because they want to say the Russians are interfering with the elections, I think he's just doing that to troll. As far as the Dick Cheney endorsement, I've said this in our group that if she had any credibility for herself, she would speak out against the endorsement. It's happened before, where people have been endorsed by people and then they've come and denounced the endorsement. So if she had any credibility at all, she would do that. She hasn't done that, so we can infer. That she has no credibility because, as I stated about Bush, Dick Cheney, I believe he worked in the Reagan administration, but I could be wrong.
And he was the CEO
But
of Halliburton
he was the CEO of
before that.
Halliburton, which was a company that the government contracted to
Right.
rebuild Iraq after they destroyed it. And he received all these, like after he stopped being the vice president, when their term was up, he got all this money in stock and stuff from the company. So, I mean, the guy admitted to a torture program. They asked him, the torture program, it even, provided false information, non-factual, non-useful information was gained through the use of torture. And he said he would do it again. If he had to do it over, he would do it again. So for a woman like that to accept the nomination from a person like that, as you guys have said, everybody has a short memory in America, and I think that's deliberate. When you look at the ways that they have destroyed our memories from Vine and TikToks and all those types of things with flashing lights and stuff, they have rewired the American mind to have the attention span of a goldfish. But that doesn't, I don't, there are some things that I can't, concentrate, but this ain't one of them. George, Dick Cheney really abused the power of the vice president. He acted as though, and I believe he tried to say that there was some kind of doctrine of executive power for vice presidents, which does not exist. So, any let's just say I was on the fence and I was considering Kamala Harris. I am not on the fence and I'm not considering Kamala Harris, but let's say that I was. At the point that you have an endorsement from Dick and Liz Cheney and you proudly accept it, you have lost my vote, right? Like I said earlier, it was Hitler and all this stuff. The Bush administration under George W. Bush, Bush 2, I believe George Bush number 2 was one of the worst presidents we've ever had during the time of color TV. I sincerely believe, based on his actions, I could show you 2 clips of some videos where he goes in and said, we thought they had weapons of mass destruction, but I guess not. And he kind of chuckles about it. This was 10, 15 years after the fact. But people died. It wasn't, you know what I'm saying? This isn't like playing Monopoly or checkers and somebody knocking the board over.
Thousands of our own U.S. servicemen.
Right.
Not including the Iraqis.
Yeah. Right. The million Iraqis that were murdered says nothing about I've heard that it was at least 100,000 U.S. servicemen injured and destroyed and killed. Right? So when we ultimately is this. Ultimately, this is why I say all this. Because neoconservatives, Bush, Cheney, Mitt Romney, Joe Biden, right? Even though he's a Democrat, he's a neoconservative. Ideology, Trump's party. Malcolm talked about this a lot. But these people have never placed the country above anything that they cared about. They haven't cared about the country over their profits. They haven't cared about their fellow citizens over their profit. Nothing. What makes you think that they legitimately believe that Trump is such a threat that all of a sudden now they want to be involved to save the country? You see what I'm saying? They've made us less safe as a result of their foreign policy.
And I'm gonna call
conservative foreign policy.
And I'm gonna call this out. And also, conspiracy brother, I'm gonna call this out now. I talked about this on the group chat, but once again, there's a uniparty. Once again, there's Democrats, establishment Republicans, rhinos, all working together, and ultimately, I think they're gonna still try to assassinate. And best case, try and strike a rally, they'll blow up Mar-a-Lago, they'll kill him and RFK Jr., and that will be the motivation to say, hey, Iran killed Trump. Let's go get Iran. They are salivating for a war with Iran. Israel's ready to lock up with the U.S. for that. And that can radicalize all the big, the big MAGA Trump supporters, the heavy Trumpers. It can radicalize them into being pro-war. Like, hey, they killed your president. Let's go to Iran and get him. I know some people kind of push back against that. But I think to some extent, there'll be some sort of black swan event, grid down scenario, terrorist attack, mass shooting, something that's going to kill Trump and RFK possibly. I hope it doesn't happen. But whatever it is, there'll be some black swan event between now and I think the January inauguration where we're going to be at war with Iran if, Israel and Palestine doesn't blow us all up first, or Ukraine and Russia. So I want to throw that out there, conspiracy brother. You had me going. We were speaking of the political Holy Ghost. So I had to throw a little game on.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but that fits along with what I'm saying. Even look at the way that the United States has thrown its lot in with countries like Ukraine and Israel. We are making ourselves less safe in the process. That is unequivocally what is happening. We are becoming less safe. The future for our children and grandchildren and our sons and our daughters is less safe, is less productive, is less bright, is less promising as a result of the joke. The joke is that George Bush was so bad as president that America, the United States, elected a man named Barack Hussein Obama to be the president next. That's how bad George Bush was. They elected a guy who had a name that he shared with the guy we had been at war with for the previous 10 years.
That part.
And this is saying nothing about Obama's policy. I'm not making a value statement about him or anything. I'm just saying the fact of this man's name, he became the next president of America. That's how bad George Bush was. There was a surplus when Bush got into office. And then the 2008 crash happened. At the end of his term, he spent so much money in Iraq and Afghanistan. It was something like at one point in time, it was like $1 billion a month or something. It was some stupid amount of money that they were spending per month.
Oh, more than that.
It wasn't $1 trillion, but a month. You see what I'm saying? It was a ridiculous amount of money that we're spending per month in Iraq and Afghanistan. Simultaneously telling you and all of us, no health care, can't do anything about the minimum wage, can't do anything about improving the living conditions for black people or reparations. That reparations wasn't even a conversation that you could have publicly without being laughed at. And this is the man you want to accept an endorsement from? Him and his daughter? That alone tells me all I need to know about you. Just like if David Duke endorsed somebody, and I don't mean like, because I think the Klan endorsed Obama back in the day. So I'm not saying like the way that Putin, I think, has endorsed Kamala Harris. But I mean, if David Duke legitimately placed a vote for you and campaigned for you, and it wasn't some kind of, reverse troll, that would make me question your policies. Because what are you doing that David Duke likes? You see what I'm saying? But as you guys have said, the American attention span is short. And give it enough time, the Democrats will concoct a new most evil person in the world. And before he dies, depending on how he dies, Trump will be a good guy, and the next guy running in the Republican side will be the most evil man ever. It's wash, rinse, and repeat.
All right. Well, you heard it here first, y'all. All right. Next topic, guys. Once again, you guys are watching Uncomfy Truths. Let's dive right in. Conspiracy Brother, you had I'm not that familiar. I heard about this interview. Angela Rye, she replaced Angela Yee on The Breakfast Club. So Breakfast Club, really popular morning show in the black community, quote unquote black community. And she kind of went to town, Angela Rye, and then Jill Stein and Dr. Butch Ware on The Breakfast Club. So Conspiracy Brother, if you want to give some perspective on that, and then we can kind of open it up. Anybody wants to comment on that?
Yeah, so you can check it out on YouTube or whatever, probably whatever streaming platform you use, but it's on YouTube. As you said, Jill Stein and Butch Ware went on The Breakfast Club to, be interviewed as politicians about their campaign and what they'll do if they're president or whatever. And for some reason, and I'll tell you the reason, that I think Angela Rye was a fill-in host, not for Angela Yee, because she's not on there anymore, for Just Hilarious, a comedian.
Oh,
Just
yeah.
Hilarious.
Okay. She replaced Angela Yee.
Yeah. And so to put it mildly, Angela Rye antagonized, and as best as I can say, this is a phrase I don't know if I've ever used this phrase before, but attempted to race bait Jill Stein and Butch Ware, a black man, because she essentially wanted them to drop out of the race because she felt that they would be taking votes away from Kamala Harris, and they're all friends because Angela Rye used to work on Congress, and she's connected to the Boule class. I don't know if she's in the Divine Nine at all, but she's connected to the Boule class. And so, she wants Kamala Harris to win. So what happens? What happens is what I think is that Charlemagne and DJ Envy both knew that they did not possess the political acumen necessary to hold a conversation with Jill Stein and Butch Ware that will be satisfactory to the Democratic donors and the establishment who, pays their salaries. So they brought Angela Rye there in an attempt to throw them off their game, and it did not work. You can go and watch the video. You can look at the comments. Nobody in the comment section is supportive of Angela Rye's attempts to undermine Jill Stein and Butch Ware. The Green Party of America has a reparations policy where they advocate for between 10 and 13 trillion dollars to be paid to descendants of American slavery. They have a robust Black agenda that you can read on their website, which is more than I can say for Trump or Kamala Harris. And I believe that, for me, it was between Dr. West and Jill Stein. And I could honestly flip a coin between either of those to determine who would get my vote. But I am leaning more toward the Green Party because they have an established party apparatus.
Mm-hmm.
Angela Rye was just completely belligerent. She was argumentative. She was nasty, just completely nasty. And you didn't even see this kind of vitriol when Larry Elder or Nikki, what was her name? Nikki Nimrata Haley was on the show. So they've had Republicans on the show who they treated better than Jill Stein and Butch Ware. And that'll tell you all you need to know about why they consider these people a threat. Why do you consider the Green Party a threat over the Republican Party? Why is the Green Party so unpalatable to the liberal class compared to the conservatives? And I'll stop there.
That's a good question. And I think also some of us to think about is the fact that, once again, like when it comes to all the lawfare they're throwing against Trump, you see everything they've been doing to, you mentioned earlier, Conspiracy Brother, you were early Bernie Sanders supporter. You supported him in 16 and 20, how they did him wrong in 16 and then in 2020 as well. You see this, Republicans kind of, OGs, George Bush and Dick Cheney, we already kind of said everything we could say about them. The Republicans and that neocon group, we already know that's them. That's who they are. The mask has always been off about who they are. But what concerns us, and this is what part of Uncomfy Truth is about, is the fact that the Democrat Party, who claims to be about democracy and we're trying to save democracy, this is the party that under two occasions undermined the leading primary candidate in 16 and 20, Bernie Sanders. This is the same party that undermined RFK Jr., kept him off the ballots, didn't let him properly run his campaign, didn't get him security. He had to run as an independent. This is also the same party that demonized and did the same thing to Cornel West as well. I mean, I would, if Dr. Cornel West or even RFK still had a fighting chance, I'd probably vote for them over Trump. But this is a party that has done wrong Bernie Sanders, RFK Jr., Dr. Cornel West. Here they are demonizing Jill Stein and Butch Ware of the Green Party, who aren't even claiming to be Republicans. But if you're not Democrat, all of a sudden you're the enemy, even though I don't agree with everything about the Socialist Party or the Green Party. But guess what? I still think they have the right to run, to let their ideas be known. And now, even with Joe Biden up until July was the front runner for the Democratic Party, even though there are a lot of things with his stances on supporting Israel and Palestine, a lot of things I didn't like about Joe Biden, but he was still the rightful candidate who got all the primary votes. So you go from 1 minute, economy's just fine, Joe Biden is the job. Next, Joe Biden is discarded after one debate, and everyone's talking about, oh, the economy is bad. We need to elect Kamala to fix it. So how do you go overnight, Joe Biden, economy's great under Joe, to now we got Kamala, she's going to fix it. So you see the same pattern that they did to Joe Biden, that they're doing, that they did to RFK, Bernie Sanders, Dr. Cornel West. This is from the same party that claims to be about democracy, and they have subverted and sabotaged more potential candidates who ran for the people than I can even name with the Republicans. I get it. The Republicans, they're warmongers. They're going to do what they're going to do, but you don't see this level of subversion of all these different candidates, even from other different parties, that they've been doing. So I wanted to just point that out because I don't think people are talking about that enough. It's that quote where they came for Trump. I didn't say anything. They came for Cornel West. I didn't say anything. They came for RFK. I didn't say anything, and they came for Tulsi. I didn't say anything. By the time they came for me, there was nobody else. There was nobody there to protect me because I said nothing. So I kind of butchered that, but I think you guys get the point. Where they, a lot of these sort of establishment uniparty gatekeepers, and Angela Rye being one of them, sees Jill Stein and Butch Ware as nothing more than a threat to her overlords, the power of the Democratic Party. And the people who wanted to elect the other candidates I mentioned, who are dismissed, discarded, and demonized, and then they want to turn to us and say, you're threatening democracy. That's my biggest issue with the Democratic Party, and I yield. And at the same time, I'm not a Republican either, but you get the point.
Yeah, man.
You know.
I think was a good point. I think you made some really good points there, and I wish we could build like a chart comparing essentially the two parties, at least in the context of the current election. There's just so much evidence, so many points of objection that are available against the Democrats that are even about how they behave amongst themselves, right? And you compare that to the other parties out there. And you have to show this to people and ask them, why in the world are you telling me to vote blue no matter who, with no policy, no agenda that benefits you? Help me understand that with this being the current status quo.
Great point. All right, God's Child or Nun Dare Call It Conspiracy. I guess your thoughts in general on the Jill Stein situation, or if you're not as well versed on this story, just maybe the Green Party in general, like, or independent candidates. You know, do they have the right to run? Seems like we're just stuck in this two-party system. So whoever wants to go, uh, floor is open.
I wanted to say something about Dick Cheney, but I was backstage for the launch. I'm at home now, so I
Okay.
can actually think and talk at
Welcome
the
back.
same time. So, but with Dick Cheney, I don't think he'll have any effect on that. I mean, he's old, decrepit, awful, evil man. I don't think he'll have any effect. And the truth of the matter, if you really want to know the truth, he don't like her. No, he doesn't. But he dislikes Trump more. Cause see, you have to remember that when Trump was in office, he arrested all those pedo rings. He went underground. They rescued like 300 kids under them tunnels and all that. It didn't make much press. So with I don't think it will sway anybody because he's way out of the generation, of voters. And the old people, they're not gonna vote for her for real. They don't like her. Unless they dislike Trump more. You know what I
Mm,
mean? That would be the
yeah.
only way. That would be it. But I don't think he can sway anybody to do anything.
And what are your
Um,
thoughts?
but the
You were
Green
God's child.
Party, the
Yeah.
Green.
Hmm.
Oh, I was just gonna say the Green Party definitely has a right to run. Now, will they ever gain any traction amongst the people? I don't think so. I think the Libertarians will more. I actually like the Libertarians more. They don't like nobody. That's pretty much. I like them better than the Green Party.
I couldn't rock with their candidate though.
I
Their
didn't like
nominee
him.
for president was far left,
Yeah,
like
he's
left to
very.
like Bernie
Yes,
Sanders. Yeah.
but I mean, for their philosophy and what they stand for, yeah, I like that. I didn't like the candidate either, but I'm just saying. So I don't really have too much to say on the Green Party. I don't think they ever really gain traction unless they get a viable candidate. I don't
I'm
know.
just saying, like, I know the Green Party or even, a Dr. Cornel West doesn't have a shot, but just the level of just censorship, deplatforming, demonization of a Jill Stein, of a Dr. Cornel West, RFK, that pisses me off because guess what? When they get rid of Trump, even if they kill him or put him in jail, guess who they're coming for next? That's what really pissed off Jimmy Dore. And I know Jimmy Dore and Dr. Cornel West, they had a big falling out. Those are guys that follow Jimmy Dore. But Jimmy was right. Like Cornel West couldn't see past the Trump arrangement syndrome and how what's going to Trump, that is what they're going to do to Cornel West, RFK, Bernie Sanders, even more once they're done with Trump. So I think a lot of people can't really see the forest through the trees because they're just caught on Orange Man bad when it's like, well, once they're through with Trump, they got a whole list of people clearly who are next in line. If they, if they don't submit, if they keep, trying to fight the system. So that's all I'm pointing out is that Trump is just the first on the list. And a lot of the Green Party independent folks we've been seeing are up next because we've been seeing evidence of that. So I wanted to just throw that out there. I think a lot of people get lost in the sauce on that. Anything else anybody wanted to add on this story?
Yeah, I'll just say I think that the third parties, the Green Party, your Libertarian Party, and whomever else you can drum up, I think they're very critical to the democratic process in this country, and they need to have the same access to media. They need to have the same visibility, and they need to be even on the debate stages. I think that not only is it a big disservice to try to suppress them and try to knock them down, but
Exactly.
it's also basically voter suppression. Honestly, that's what I'm going to start flagging it as, because what happens is you have people who will be aligned with them and will give them their vote, and yeah, maybe they might not be getting enough votes to actually win, but what happens is when you look at the numbers when it's all over, you get to see where do the American people truly put their values, not where are they being forced to corral into, not where are the few buckets they have left after the major parties have kicked everyone off the stage, really just the Democrats kicking people off the stage. But now you get to see, well, 30% of the population, although the Democrats won, 30% of the population said they actually would prefer the processes and procedures of the Green Party or whatever. So now that informs the next Democratic presidential candidate how they need to move if they're going to get those votes back to the Democratic side. And so that's why I really am a proponent of kicking anybody in the teeth who runs around saying that giving your vote to any other than the two major parties is a waste of your vote. That's totally undemocratic. It's a lie, and
Mhm.
it's against the entire principle of how this country runs. So anybody who likes to say that type of stuff is someone who should not be talking at all, because they either are misinformed or they're maliciously setting up people to try to corral them to a party of their favor, not to that person's identity.
Woo.
That was well said.
Big facts.
That was well said. I totally agree with what you just said.
Big facts.
I agree myself.
All right, man. This is Comfy Truths, man. We stay cooking here, y'all. Once again, follow us on Rumble, also YouTube, and also Uncomfy Truths. Um, all right, next topic, guys. Let me not get too caught up here. Ooh, hold on a second. All right. Got to talk about this, y'all. The federal judge that handcuffed the sister girl at 36 District Court. Once again, guys, I know it's in Detroit, so people are like, why you got to cover that? Hey, it's uncomfy truth, so we got to talk about it. So here we go. I haven't heard any recent updates besides the federal judge was forced to, resign over this. They're calling it racially charged, but I believe that the federal judge was black and also the girl was black. So I don't really understand that angle. But anybody, I'm sure there's been some rumblings. Anyone's thought on this story? Where, just for context, was a group, I think a volunteer group. I think it was called the Green of Detroit. were going into a court. They were shadowing, watching a court case with a federal judge in there presiding over a case. And next thing you know, the girl kept falling asleep, kept being told to wake up. Girl kept falling asleep. Judge told her to wake up again. Next thing you know, she's like, I guess, being disrespectful. I wouldn't say cussing him out, but definitely kind of going back and forth with him. This is, some of this stuff has been confirmed. And then basically they're saying, I first heard initial reports he only threatened to put her in handcuffs, but I guess it turned out she did get in handcuffs, get put in the jail cell. Now the family's suing the judge over this. So I would like to get anybody's thoughts on this story. I got a few things to say that might ruffle some feathers, you know me, but I like to go ahead and put that out there. Uh, whoever wants to touch on this story.
I personally don't think he should have been removed because when he found out the girl's situation that she was homeless and they were living in a shelter, he agreed to mentor her. And I think his mentorship would have been a great asset for her and maybe probably, got her around different people who would have also helped her and her family. So I think that
Hmm.
mentorship would have been a great asset for the young lady. It's unfortunate that, I do believe he should have pulled her to the side and asked her. I know it was a lot of kids there, but is there anything that, going on with you than to put her in handcuffs? Because she didn't, she was belligerent, but I mean, based on her situation, who wouldn't be, and why she was sleepy. As far as
Okay.
the family has a right to sue. They do have a right to sue, but I don't think he should have been removed. I think maybe, it could have been handled differently, the whole situation. I just think the whole thing was unfortunate.
Okay, because I didn't hear about the development that she was, potentially, that she was homeless. She obviously had some things going on at home.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, that came
yeah.
out afterwards they're homeless, living in a shelter.
Oh yeah,
So
no permanent address. Oh yeah,
yeah, and when he found that out, that's when he, wanted to mentor her, become her mentor. And
a little too late.
I think that would have changed her life, having him as a mentor and being introduced to another side of life.
Okay. All right. Anybody else? Thoughts on this development?
I'm gonna just shoot off the waist, and I don't have a darn clue about this. Honestly, I ain't read a single article, but I know that
Oh.
yeah, I'm super uninformed. But why am I talking? Because I'm gonna give you my presumptions that might be wrong, right? I'm gonna give you the context of my opinion, so you know why I'm coming for this opinion. Um, Essentially, right? A child falling asleep in the courtroom. Okay, was she on trial? I mean, I that's the question I got. But outside of that, yeah, it's really crazy to hear this idea of trying to let's go ahead and make a point about this in front of the other children, right? Like, well, that's what they did with him. They made a point about him as a judge in front of all the other judges. That's why he got taken off the bench.
Well, it was a black judge, I believe, right?
Yeah, he's black. Everybody
Yeah.
involved was black.
Yeah. Judge Kenneth King. I know you didn't have the context. Not rocket science, brother, but yeah, he was a black judge. Um, I would just say that once again, the fact that she had, they were maybe living in their car, didn't have a permanent address, that of course gives me a lot more sympathy. I think the way the initial info came out, it was just a girl just sort of mouthing off with and if she was just doing that, I'm not saying it was right to put her in handcuffs, throw her in jail, even if you're just proving a point or example. But at the same time, if it was a situation where I'm just going to say what I want, do what I want, and we got this whole generation of kids cursing out teachers, not respecting authority, if that was the situation, I would have thought it would be wrong for the judge to be, you know, taken off the bench. Because what that does for a lot of times, that empowers, once again, that this wasn't the case clearly, but if there was just another girl who was just mouthing off the same way she mouthed off about a teacher, you see a trend where a lot of the parents defend the child who's even in the wrong. And now that child is emboldened, builds an entitlement, and next thing you know, once again, where's that girl going to be 5, 10 years from now? Oh, she's going to be mouthing off to the cop and not complying or putting her hands on the dashboard because how dare you talk to me like that? You know, I cursed out a judge and my mom protected me, and you know you can't tell me nothing, and that's a destructive, dangerous path. I'm not saying this is what that was the case, but until we got that information about, hey, she was homeless, she had things going on, the judge wanted to mentor her. Now that's not the case here. What this story could have cautionary tale wise was the fact that once again there seems to be a growing trend of these of kids last 10, 20 years that say whatever they want to the teacher, say whatever they want to authority, and we're instead of having the talk about, hey, when a cop pulls you over, put your hands at 10 and 2, put your ID out. And this is even what's happened with the whole Tyreek Hill situation, where it's kind of like we're kind of socially conditioning people to be combative when they don't need to be. And I'm not saying that's every situation. I have plenty of issues with cops and the whole, Sonia Massey situation. But in most situations, it ends up being unfortunate where we're end up trying to teach kids to kind of just not take certain responsibility and just be compatible with authority when it's not necessary in most cases. So I wanted to kind of just bring up that perspective. I'm not saying this was the situation, but if she didn't have that homelessness situation going on, there's a fair point to where, once again, are we letting kids off the hook when they should get some sort of be put in check somewhat as a lesson? I'm not saying this is right, but if she wasn't homeless, I'd feel differently.
I would actually say that the homelessness thing probably actually doesn't take away from your opinion at all. I think that what the problem is that I honestly almost want to say it's the handcuff thing, because did you need to do the cuffs or did you just need to remove it from the courtroom?
Yeah, was this Scared Straight 2.0?
Yeah, right, exactly. Did you need to do Scared Straight? I don't think that's part of his scope of work. I think his scope of work is to just get the distraction or get the issue. Matter of fact, if she was following this, I'd really need to read the story. I apologize, but I think that, if you're going to help, I agree with you. If you're going to help children understand the hierarchy of authority and things like this, you have to do it with the cognizance that obviously they came in here not understanding something. So clearly they don't respect you. So I wonder why. So are you going to be constructive and try to actually help her and the children and try to deal with the situation in a reasonable manner? With children, you have to be within reason to a fault, because adults are adults. These are not adults. Adults you handle differently than children. And that's why I think there's even a case of discussion here, right? You don't handle children like adults. That's why this is even news. And it seems like he may have done that. But anyway, I'm going to put my mic on mute.
All right, and I'm gonna just pose one more thing. Yeah, really quick conspiracy, brother. I wanted to pose this out. I'm gonna throw a little wrench in there because you know me. And like, why did you have to say this, conservative brother? But if the girl was white, there was a black judge that did this to a white girl mouthing off, will we have the same level of outrage? Or would everybody be celebrating the black judge for putting the girl not respecting the black judge in her place? I'm just kind of putting that out there. The roles were reversed, or if the black girl was white, would we have the same level of outrage? Just putting that out there.
Well, I wanna just hit on the main topic first, because it's actually something I kind of followed it a little closely. My hope is that whatever capacity, I believe he's an elected judge, so whatever capacity is possible that he be removed from being a judge permanently, disbarred, or whatever they call it, defrocked, whatever you call it, for removing a judge. I would like him to receive that to the fullest extent possible. If it's impeachment, I know he was removed from the docket, but I don't know, that was temporary. So I don't know that it's a long-term solution. Because here's what I understand to be the series of events. A girl who is 15, who is homeless, who lives with her mother and siblings, who is in a school summer program voluntarily called the Greening of Detroit. Girl is also an honor roll student or gets good grades, one of the two. Voluntarily in this program to come to the judge's courtroom. She is falling asleep. We can just assume, because she's homeless, that it may be a result of a lack of stable housing, or if she's in a shelter, could be, you know, depending on how the shelter is set up, she may not have privacy or safety to feel comfortable to sleep as peacefully as one might need at 15. And the judge tells her to wake up. We have all, on this conversation, we've all been 15. We know how 15-year-olds can be hormonal. At times, you can feel like you know everything. And so, throughout this process, the judge, in wanting to flex his muscles and exert his power, has her arrested, changed into a jail, what do you call it, a prison outfit, prison uniform, and brought back into the courtroom, saying that he can put her in a juvenile facility. Now, all this other stuff comes out. Now, I've got 2 daughters. I got a son. My daughter's 9, one is 6. My son is 3. If I had this happen to me, I'm not going to say what, but everybody, when I was in Atlanta, when I moved to Atlanta, there was a guy who got into a situation at a courthouse in Atlanta named Brian Nichols. Look up what happened to Brian Nichols. Everybody who's watching this show, and maybe some of you guys on the panel, I use the guys as a gender neutral term. Look up Brian Nichols. I believe it was BRANNICHOLS, but it could be BRYAN. Brian Nichols. And that's what I could think might be the best thing that I could do. Okay. There's no way in hell that I would allow you to mentor my daughter after you have put her through this emotional distress. Not my son either, but this is about a young girl, because she was not in a Scared Straight program. She was in a voluntary Detroit beautification summer program. And the issue that we have, because, you know, you talked about he's black, so can it be racism? Yeah, I mean, it can be just as much racism, even though it was a cartoon character, as Uncle Ruckus on the Boondocks. Just because a person shares an ethnic or racial background, a religious background, a geographic background, does not preclude them from sharing negative, bad, wrong, prejudices and negative generalizations about people. If anything, Ice Cube talked about it in F the Police. He said, don't let it be a black and a white when talking about cops, because they'll slam you down to the street top, black police showing out for the white cop. And so we have to understand that there is frequently among our community a tendency to feel familiar with each other. So when I see you coming toward me based on how you look, and based on my assumptions about how you look and where you come from, I assume the worst. This is why so many black people are upset at black conservatives, because you're black like me, and I'm not a conservative, And I'm not a conservative because of the history of our people in this country. So you shouldn't be a conservative either. And if you are a Tom or a coon, or you are self-hating or racist, whatever. You see what I'm saying? It all works the same way. And so what this judge did to this 15-year-old girl is he assumed she's from Detroit. He assumed she wasn't a good student, a capable student, whatever. Because the fact that she's homeless is not even a peculiarity among residents of Detroit. Only 50-some%. The last time we talked about this, me and not Rocket Science brother talked about this on the show we do. Less than 50% of homes are owned by residents of Detroit. So, taking all that into consideration, you're not in the Scared Straight program. I don't know anything about you, what this judge should have done. I ain't a judge. And I'm a little bit younger than this guy. So I've got a little bit less life experience, at least I'll say, for my own benefit. What he should have done, this girl could not stay awake, not in a court proceeding, not mandated by law to be there. Court was not in session. So the judge had no more say-so in that courtroom than he would in a basketball court. He should have said, hey, if you can't stay awake, I've got to remove you. And he should have had her escorted out, either taken to the bathroom or to sit outside, because I've served on the jury in the 36th district. And then after the court tour was over, should have talked to her. Hey, what's going on, in the future, to feel out what is going on in her life.
Good point.
Don't make assumptions.
Good point.
That's how we become our own worst enemy. If I took that same approach, there would be connections, friendships, and all kinds of things I wouldn't have, because I would make assumptions about black people, because I know black people. I think I know all black people because I'm black. What can you teach me? What can you show me? What can you tell me? But I've had to grow and learn. And so the problem comes from the fact that this man, the 36th district, I don't know if they handle criminal cases, or I imagine they might, but when you have a man like this who shows poor judgment, who shows poor discretion and discernment, and he is a judge responsible for the lives and the livelihoods and futures of people every day as a condition of his job, what happens to all those people who have to interact with him? When you assume the worst about a 15-year-old little girl in Detroit, Michigan, when you notice one of the poorest major cities, because it's still a major city in the country, what does that say about you? Now you want to mentor her when it's an outcry. Now you want to mentor her when she's suing you. I hope she sues you to the poorhouse. I hope she sues you and you pay for her to go to college and her kids to go to college. Whatever, to the fullest extent of what punishment he can have, I want him to get it. Because you have now sowed a seed in this little girl that is going to affect how she looks at judges, how she looks at black men for the rest of her life. And she's 15. We all were children. We all been 15. Everybody on this panel. Heaven forbid something you said, something you did when you was 15 had been blown out to this proportion. And what effect might that have had on you right now? And so that's where I'm coming from. If this had been a white little girl, would this be something that that stirs me up so much? Maybe not.
And guess what? Maybe that black judge probably wouldn't even put her in cuffs. I don't think he would have had the same sort of like. He probably would have. Oh, let me back off.
Right.
From Macomb County.
Because you don't know the white girl.
Yep.
You don't know who the white girl knows. You don't know who her parents are. You might be able to make assumptions depending on how her clothes look, but you don't know who her parents are. So you got to play. Oh well, she might be somebody. Her parents might be important. I got to be nice.
But he made assumptions on homegirl.
Right. You made an assumption on somebody who looks like you because you assume that you know her life. I told the story. When I was 14, I went to Wayne County Jail on a tour. It was voluntary. I got to miss school, so I said, well, I'm going. You know, anything to miss school, I'm going. So I go to this Wayne County Jail tour. I was in a school program in the 8th grade, and we're sitting in this room. And I didn't realize it really wasn't portrayed this way, but it was like a Scared Straight program. Now here I am, go to church. My father's a deacon. You know, I'm in the choir, go to Sunday school, Bible study, all this stuff. I play sports. I don't really hang out. I don't do nothing at all. You know, and we're in this room with maybe 30 to 40 kids from Detroit, and then us from Westland. And this lady, she's some kind of corrections officer or whatever. She has these prisoners there. They like a Scared Straight thing. They telling us stuff they did. One guy said he shot his dad. He was YBI when he was younger. And one guy said he was high on some drugs and he killed his friend of his, and they still haven't been able to find the body. And he don't know where he is. All he knows is that his friend's blood is in his trunk. You know, I'm sitting here listening to this story. And so then they tell us in the room, everybody, this is what the lady says, the lady who's like the corrections officer says, everybody in here got to stand up and tell me why you here and what you do wrong. And you can't lie and say you don't do nothing wrong, because I was a kid and I know kids do bad stuff, because when I was a kid, I did bad stuff. And I'm wearing this was like, you know, December or November or something. It might have been, you know, January or February, because it was cold. It was snow on the ground. I'm wearing a thick brown wool sweater. It's cable knitted, for anybody who might, you know the pattern where it looks braided. And my heart is beating so fast in my chest that you can see it through this thick brown sweater I'm wearing, because I don't know what to say. I'm just giving you my biography up to that point. Right? I'm here voluntarily. So I got up, I said whatever I said, and that was sufficient for them people. But that's the mindset. I was a kid, I did bad stuff. So I know all of you do bad stuff too. Black lady corrections officer, what is the mentality that you're trying to impress upon future generations of people who share your lineage and your history and the city? Let's forget all, in the city that you live in right now, what are you trying to impress upon them? Fear, contempt, anger? This judge should take a long, hard look at himself in the mirror and evaluate his life choices up to this point. Whether he talks to a pastor, whether he talks to a therapist, whether he talks to a friend or something, he needs to reevaluate the decisions that he has made up to this point in his official capacity as a judge, especially, but also as a human being. The kindness that, Martin Luther King says, be the change you want to see in the world. And we always have a tendency to think that change starts with somebody else, right? Things got to be better. The mayor ain't doing this. The congressperson ain't. The president ain't. The senator ain't. They got to do better. You start being the change. You pick up the trash in your yard and on your neighborhood. You adopt a vacant lot, and clean it up and cut the grass and plant a garden. You see what I'm saying? You go out to the field in your city and cut the grass, or your neighborhood and cut the grass and pick up the trash, so the kids in your neighborhood can have a safe, clean place to play. Should we have better infrastructure? Should we have a better system at a national level? Not just talking about state and local. Yes, but you got to start being the change you want to see. And so for this judge to behave this way, to me, completely, truly, thoroughly unacceptable. The best thing that I can say if this happened to me is Brian Nichols. Don't forget that name. Look him up. Brian Nichols in Atlanta, Georgia, in about 2007 or 2008. Brian Nichols. I'll land my plane right there.
Whoo, conspiracy, brother. Bringing the fire as always. Definitely wrap that up in a nice bow. I don't think we got much else to say right there. I guess let's move on. Unless anybody else has anything they want to add, but conspiracy brother, great perspective. Definitely giving us a reality check on the deal with that case. All right, next topic. Once again, you guys are watching Uncomfy Truths. We got this escalation with this Venezuelan gang sightings. A lot of people saying it's, a lot of fear mongering, a little bit of truth, a little bit of hyperbole. There's been reported cases, with obviously the migrant crisis that's been kind of flooding through the border the last few years. And obviously with things going on recently in Chicago, also Aurora, Colorado, and then there's been sightings in Texas. There's going to be a lot of people that feel strongly either way. Uh, so I kind of just hear what anybody been hearing as far as like things going on. Obviously, the Haitians have been kind of like a big talking point, since what Trump mentioned them during the debate. But if anybody wants to kind of talk on sort of that crisis going on, what's true, what's not true, what should we maybe look out for? The floor is open. Whether they want to talk on the Venezuelans or the Haitians, not to kind of stereotype too much, but it's been in the news. So whoever wants to kind of go first, and yeah. Don't all speak at once.
Really, nobody got something. I pontificate.
All
No,
right.
I'm
Yeah,
kidding.
I don't want to. I don't want to
So
follow
here we go.
myself. Yeah. Go
No, it's
ahead.
fine. So yeah, I've been, this perked my ears up, of course, coming out of the debate, and I'm hearing that there are stories. Wait a minute, we talking about the Venezuelans or the Haitians? Sorry, I thought we were talking about the Haitians. Why did I get the idea we're talking about the Haitians? Oh, I'm so sorry. Venezuelans, listen, it's really interesting that we're talking about these folks, unfortunately, as immigrants to the country of questionable status, right? And there are a ton of people who are out here trying to defend instead of understanding, right? At the first thing you should know out the gate is information. The left democratic kind of, plantation mindset is, you are not allowed to speak on it. You shut the whole discussion down before we even get there. That is crazy. So we can't even figure out what's really going on with these Haitian migrants. Then they usually call in a flavor with the little city manager or mayor, somebody of enough of a capacity to speak with some type of fake authority on the situation or fake knowledge of the situation to say, oh, there's not really a problem. It's just been misconstrued and it's blown out of proportion. They love to do that. And so then they run around and they just continue to keep this thing quiet and keep going and try to let it, be handled locally, but nationally it's a topic for the presidential election because without any evidence against it, there is concern that it is related to the actual border situation. And so I think that we need to have a truthful discussion about it. And I think a lot of folks want to push back on the discussion even being had, and it's disgusting and it's problematic. And we can't be that nation that wants to allow a party or a group of people who want to be in power to subvert or oppress or suppress rather meaningful discussion that is seeking to unearth the truth so that we can understand if we need to take some action. Similarly, I've seen that you had the Haitians pop up too. What I was going to mention on that is the Haitian situation harkens straight out of the debate. And my opinion is honestly like this. Like, when I heard it, like I said, I was just blown away and I was just laughing. And I got my hand on my face because I'm like, this is so unreal. But now I specifically watched a particular tape, a particular recording rather, a couple of days ago, where a gentleman was at, I guess, Springfield City Hall at a council meeting. And he was complaining about the situation with the newly arrived migrants or immigrants of Haitian descent that were causing a bit of a issue in the community. Specifically, he spoke about driving. And so I eventually seen a video where I guess they had crashed into a local restaurant, and he was speaking on having numerous videos, several videos at least online of various motor incidents, vehicle incidents in the city due to these particular people not having the requisite driving skill. And so he went on to talk about the geese. He talked about the geese situation at a local park. And that I think was the jump off point for these discussions around the animals. And I'm like, here's the thing. Trump brought it up. It may have been exaggerated. It might have been based on some falsified extrapolation, right? You getting out there to just be categorically false when you extrapolate too far. But I'm telling you, if my man's wasn't lying about the geese, then what Trump was saying on stage was not, I'm not going to say that it was true, but his intention of saying that there's something going on relative to the animal population versus the migrant or immigrant population in this particular city. And the thing is, right, you know, they pulled up that little fact sheet. We called the city manager and he said there are no credible reports of such a thing.
The governor said
happening.
no.
Yeah. And I'm just like, yeah, but those folks are not on the ground. And honestly, they've been ignoring the citizens who actually live there too. So I wouldn't treat them as credible sources. I'd send in 2 independent third parties to investigate. And what I want those third parties to come back with is not a yes or no answer. I want them to tell me exactly what is the reason that these animals got involved in this conversation, because don't tell me that they made it up out of thin air and there were absolutely no animals involved. I know this sounds like tinfoily on my head. I'm not being that way. What I'm saying is that a lot of times in common media today, especially the major media, and major media applies to the ABC debate, they do not want to subscribe or highlight or even acknowledge any type of storylines that benefit the opposing team. And if the opposing team has a conjecture that's premised on immigrants, or rather migrants who are not documented or migrants who are not assimilated to our society, they're going to push back on that. They're going to subvert it. They're going to suppress it. They're going to knock you out as hard as they can to make sure that doesn't make it to the light of day, even if there is a shred of truth with it. They're not going to do a fact check and then give you the correct part of the fact. No, they're just going to say the whole thing was nonsense. And that's what we talked about earlier, right? Is this basic essence that they would go in there and just say they want to cast the things that he was saying as totally being false in any way, shape, form, or fashion that they can to discredit him as an entire candidate, right? That's been their whole mission from day zero, is to discredit this man from the ground up. So, this has really piqued my interest. I have some inclination to believe there's some truth to the stories that I've been hearing, but I think that it may not have a high incident rate. So that's that.
Very based analysis, not rocket science, brother. Appreciate the context, kind of breaking that down, unfolding it for us. I got a few things to say as well. May ruffle some feathers once again, but God's Child or Nun Dare, whoever wants to go next, and conspiracy, brother. Just on the migrant crisis in general, legal immigration, how you feel about it? Is it real? Is it is it fake? Whoever wants to go next.
Well, I'll say.
Yeah, you go ahead.
When not rocket science, brother, said something about tinfoil hats, my ears perked up because that's kind of my wheelhouse. But I think a lot of this is orchestrated. I was watching a Jimmy Dore video. This is some months ago. He was interviewing Whitney Webb. They were talking about how they're trying to implement digital ID systems for border crossing, which would eventually expand to all Americans in a violation of should be the Fourth Amendment, right? Because you'd have it completely, video surveillance. It would expand like video surveillance and cell surveillance and email surveillance and stuff like that. So I think, much like we talked about with these assassination attempts, because the weapon today was a said AK-47 style rifle. In Pennsylvania, it was an AR-15 what I think is happening is they're trying to convince Trump supporters to be anti-gun or anti-assault weapon. And in this same situation, what they're trying to do, much like with how they implemented the Patriot Act after 9/11 and all those different restrictions at the airport, you got to take your shoes off, you got to scan your whole body in this machine, and they can see all your privates and stuff. And if you don't believe me, look it up. The X-ray scanners, the people outside can't see, but there's somebody in the back who is looking at the computer and they can see your full body under the clothes. But they want the American people to ask for government intervention, right? So you allow these people, these gangs, to flood into cities, and you either have, inconsistent coverage, or you have the coverage from people who have such a, tenuous, I guess at best, relationship with being respected as far as media outlets, and then people can't really determine what's fact and what's fiction, and then you have people all over the country scrambling, just hoping for some type of salvation from the government, right? Hey, so then you ask for militarized police, which will ultimately be turned on us, or you ask for the National Guard to show up, or you ask for some type of restrictions to occur. Now, I don't know. I don't want to be too conspiracy brother, but an election is coming up. So what if right around the time of the election, there are some type of restrictions that would alter the way that we vote once again, either by allowing for there to be mass mail-in balloting like we have only ever seen in 2020, or some other type of weird restrictions where they may allow for, voting without an ID or something of that sort. And then on the Haitian situation, what this is to me, I can believe more easily that you might find some Haitian people eating geese and ducks that they find outside. Just because they live in a country where they're more in close contact to their food sources than we are. So, where we get our stuff from the stores and from processing places, they don't. So I can see more of them being willing. The cat and dog thing, I'm still not sure about. But there was a video released, police body cam footage, where a family that sounded like they were black said that a woman who appeared to be Haitian was murdering a cat or killing a cat. She was covered in blood. And the police officer asked her if she was eating the cat, because the family said she was eating the cat, and she never responded. She just kind of stared at him, but she never answered. So I don't know if it was because she didn't speak English or because she didn't want to say. So, but that's the only real video that I've seen of that happening. But I think the situation with the Haitians and the Venezuelans, it's a combination of, flooding America with cheap labor is essentially what it is. You've outsourced, I said this in our group, you've outsourced all the labor that you could to China, to Mexico, to Vietnam, to all these various countries. And the jobs that are in this country that still need someone to fill them, the manual labor, the menial jobs, the jobs that you want to keep low paying, you flood in cheap labor, people who do the job at the paid rate that already exists. You give them special carve-outs like H-1B visas, which will allow them to work in this country if they're sponsored by their employer for a prescribed period of time. And then, the American worker suffers because we are competing with people, for $15, $20 an hour at a time in the economy where we really need about $35 to $40 an hour for people who $20 an hour is a significant increase in the pay that they would have received had they stayed home. And even, being willing to live in 1-bedroom apartments with multiple people, allowing them to still save money, and can't take for granted, that we can drink water out of the taps, in most places in this country, that you can still walk to the grocery store, that roads are paved, that there are street lights. I went to the Dominican Republic like 8, 9, maybe 10 years ago. And I was walking down the street with a friend of mine. It was dark, and we were just kind of walking around seeing what was going on. And I tripped over a rat, just walking down the street. It was a rat big rat, and I kicked right into it. Didn't even see it until after I kicked it and tripped. And we don't live in those situations for the most part, you know. So living in America is a significant benefit to the quality of life that most of these people can expect compared to where they come from. So they're less likely to complain. They're less likely to resist any type of extreme working conditions. And so I think this is a combination of those things is why this is allowed to happen.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, the truth of, oh my God, soon as I talk, here go the dog. Oh my
All right.
God.
Go ahead and
Wait, no, I
yeah.
just left out the room. My son coming in.
All right.
Oh my God, are you got to be kidding me?
That dog wants to be on the show. All right. We'll get back. We'll get back to Nun Dare. Also got.
No, this is very important. What I'm trying to say. Get her.
Okay. All right. Wait for
The
it.
truth about the border, our borders are controlled by the United Nations. You can look this up. I read the whole thing on my channel. It's called the Global Compact for Migration. And in this, if you are part of the United Nations, any country, the European countries, United States, you signed on to this global compact. And when the migrants come over, the illegals come over, you have to provide them food, shelter, education, health care, and settle them in until they're able to fend for themselves. You can look it up right now. It's called Global Compact of Migration. The United Nations controls our borders. We don't, because we signed on for it, just like the other European countries who are in turmoil, and now they're now sending their migrants back to the Middle East and Africa and Europe. So that's the truth about migration. And they need to tell the truth to the people of what this really is that's going on. But it's called Global Compact of Migration. I read the whole thing on my channel. That's what's happening. Your borders are controlled by the UN, not the United States. And until we sign off of that, this is not going to stop unless Trump is in there, because she's not going to stop it. She's a puppet.
I don't.
And
I
that's
don't.
why Putin and anybody else would, of course, because she can be controlled. Trump can't be controlled, and that's the problem. You can control him, because he is also a Freemason, but you can control him somewhat, but he's still a man's man. You're not going to just totally control that man.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I agree with and those are really great points everybody's been bringing up. Like as far as like because even with Trump, he still has to kind of bend to the Israel regime, military industrial complex. There will be some backroom deals made. I do like not rocket science, brother, your commentary on the fact that yes, instead of having if the media, politicians really wanted to have a serious conversation to say, hey, based on what Trump said, he was kind of off, but this is what's going on. Let me tell you why, or why this is. There are Haitians that recently went to Ohio, but the fact that, like you said, is just a complete suppression. It's not happening. How dare you even mention that? These are baseless claims, substantiated. It's the same sort of dystopian. Don't look at the man behind the curtain, kind of, Wizard of Oz. And also, conspiracy brother, you brought up great points about once again, like these corporations have incentive. Not only are monger, not only are they destabilizing these countries, letting illegals flood in, but also these corporations do take advantage of the cheap labor. I think the biggest thing when it comes to this subject, guys, I like to keep it kind of big scope when it comes to illegal immigration, is that all of these things are true. Everything you guys said is true, is multifaceted, and two things can be true at the same time. I solely believe, I know when people kind of say like the whole saying, like, no one is illegal in a place that's on stolen land. Like I get it. What the settlers did to the Indians, obviously different organizations or different civilizations enslave each other. And once again, even though conservative is in my name, I am for vetted legal immigration. I think once again, bringing in different cultures that go through the classes that learn the very basic American citizenship values. I think there's a place for that. It should continue, but it has to be vetted. These have to be a process, whether it's DNA testing, whether we're not just letting anybody in where we don't know if that adult with the two kids next to them is trafficking that kid, the selling the child labor. We heard about a few weeks ago or a few months ago, it broke about the 80,000 children that went missing under the Biden DHS. So like you mentioned, all of you mentioned things that are true, where it's very multifaceted. But once again, you have these migrants coming over, where once again they're being shepherded. A lot of them by the cartel, not all of them. One of the things I kind of get mad at Trump for is that like I mentioned before, Trump has like that bedside manner of a lose weight, whatever it is. He kind of rubs you off the wrong way. I mean, he never. I wish he would once in a while say, "Hey, I'm not saying all these immigrants coming over are bad. There are some legitimate families, but under the veil, a lot of them are using that cover to allow fentanyl that's flooding in, that's allowing child labor and trafficking." I kind of wish Trump would be a little more nuanced instead of in his rhetoric, you know? So that's the thing that's going on. And what's going to continue to happen is that the great replacement theory that the left kind of fear mongers about, they're replacing us. They're replacing black folks, foundational black Americans, ADOS, and they're replacing uh, Latino Americans who've been here multiple generations, as well as ones that immigrated here legally and legal immigrants.
You
So,
know what? That
yeah.
I'm
Mhm.
sorry to cut you off. That is a
No, no, go
fact
right ahead.
because if you look at the August job reports where they lied over 1 million jobs, but Americans lost 1.3 million jobs, but the migrants gained 1.2 million jobs.
Mm,
And there was only like 142,000 jobs that were actually created in August. So all the jobs that Americans lost had to go to them where they get 1.2 million jobs. So I just
yeah.
wanted to give you some statistics.
Yeah, and then not rocket science or conspiracy, brother. You guys could chime in as well. It's a round table, but that's what I say is that I'm never gonna 100% say like, oh, everybody's coming over here, they're rapists and they're gonna steal and rob you. Even though we've talked about conspiracy, brother, on length of the surge in crime in different major blue cities, the migrant crime of different women raped and killed. But I will never, even though it says conservative, I'll paint that as an entire picture of entire people coming over here. But we can address that within the flood of the border, there are legitimate families who are at a minimum, they're being escorted by the cartel. There's NGOs that are working with the DOJ and the Biden government to hand out leaflets and maps. And hey, when you get over across the border, vote for Biden. That is all going on while we can still
That's
say
true.
that there is a place for legal immigration the right way that's vetted and processed and doesn't get so many people killed and trafficked and fentanyl coming across the border. Two things can be true at the same time. And I hate that both the right and the left just make it that it's just one way. And that's
I
all I'm going to
agree
say
with
on
you,
that.
but if you
You know.
guys read the Global Compact on Migration, it's
Mhm.
a lot of information in there on the NGOs and their role.
Yep.
And they are paid and given money by the UN.
Yep. That's definitely happening too. I've definitely read up on that. But not rocket science or conspiracy, brother. Anything else y'all want to add to this? Because it's happening.
Yeah,
It is happening. So let's
I,
just,
I would say, and this might be
yeah,
controversial, but
mm,
really on the face of it, I'm
yeah,
pretty anti-immigrant, legal or illegal, actually.
mm,
Or I won't say
oh,
immigrant because those are people, but immigration, the
right,
process. I'm pretty thoroughly uh, over it,
mm,
and it's only
that's fair.
because It's only because I think this country insufficiently deals with the people it already has. I mean, look how we talk about the situation in Ukraine and the money we give to Israel. And you have all, or even the migrants, you know, they're getting money, housing. You have veterans who are living on the street. And you have people who have just come over here, even the, you know, completely, you know, like you said, we destabilized, and I've said this before, we've destabilized their countries. But they're coming over here and you're giving them housing, you give them food allowances. You know what I'm saying? So I've heard someone said that they're getting Social Security. I don't know about that. But you're giving them food and housing, and that is unacceptable. You know what I'm saying? Just like if a person, you know how people are hoarders. If you knew a lady had 20 cats and she wasn't taking care of her 20 cats at a acceptable level, would you give her 20 more cats?
Nah, like
No.
like JD Vance says, we don't want to run the country with single scare cat ladies, but no pun intended. Not rocket science brother has to dip out in 5 minutes, so
Okay.
not rocket science want to give you your final say, at least on this topic, so we can kind of get you out of here. And then conspiracy brother, you can go right after.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it, gentlemen. You know, I just like you or similar to you, I do believe that immigration in general, when done legally along the established policies and procedures, which should include vetting of those who are coming in the country, I think that's totally fine. And I also think that, unfortunately, the United States has built up a cadre of people who really believe that immigration has been the savior of the country, to the degree that they're fighting tooth and nail above and beyond the American descendants of slavery's contributions. And I'm not here to compete the two, but what I'm saying is that what we've done is we've made it you cannot say anything about immigration that would infer anything where you might reduce the number of people coming in, you might make it harder for them to come in, you might actually require them to show any proof of anything. Any of these things where you're going to challenge immigration has become taboo. And that's a problem, because what we're saying in the grand scheme of things, and I think most people you could approach on the street and say, hey, do you support legal immigration? They're all going to say yes. Then if you say, well, do you support making reforms that would enforce the laws that are on the book regarding immigration and require people to come through the border checkpoints? And then people start dividing themselves and they start showing different colors, right? I think that they think that we're going to somehow start disadvantaging people. Remember, they talked about those really long lines back at the border when, I think it was during Trump's tenure, especially COVID timing, like they just had nothing but endless pictures of these ridiculous queues trying to get into the checkpoints. And then what that did though is it forced the conversation to be easier and more accurate to be had, so we can come to a real substantial, sustainable, equitable solution. When you got people coming in through porous holes in the border, when you got having to employ officers to chase up and down roads to look for them, to help them, to get them to safety, instead of just telling them to come in one point of entry, then you're really starting to cause the nation to actually burn more money. And more importantly, you're disadvantaging these people because they can't even safely come into the country in a reasonable way. They're doing all sorts of shady stuff to get in now, right? So if we could just look at this in the right way, we could come to a better solution and more respect for the people on both sides of the border. But right now, the Democratic, I'm just going to go ahead and go in on the Dems on this one. The Democratic establishment has typecast any type of scrutiny, criticality, or dissecting of our current enforcement of our border laws or our future desirable enforcement of our border laws as being anti-immigrant, as being, racist, as being anything. They love the false flag stuff so that it can't be touched, right? They make it, they move it beyond your ability to touch it. So it's very problematic, which is another one of those things that need to go on the list about, the left side of the ticket, right? Is they do these things they basically lace reasonable discussions with poison so that you can't have them. And that's where I'm at.
All
I
right.
just want to add that as long as the United Nations control our borders, it's nothing that's going to be done. We have to
Mm-hmm.
sign out and get out of that. We sign on to that. We have to provide everything that they need to make it here.
So let me just to that
So
point
that's
there.
why I think you got to read it. It is so interesting. I read the whole thing on my. I think it's like 50 pages, whatever it is. I love to read anyway. I
It's
read the
probably
whole
shorter than
thing.
Project 2025, so I'll give it a glance.
No, no, no. But it's
Yeah.
called it's called The Truth About Migration, the global I read the whole. It is such an interesting read. I mean, I was blown away. And as
Mhm.
long as we're signed into that compact with the United Nations, it's not going to stop. Period. And we have to give them everything they need to survive
I
until they're
agree.
So
on their
I just
own
want
feet.
Yeah.
let me respond to that though, because
Mhm.
Yeah.
that is as true as that may be. I'm not super familiar with it. I'll definitely take a look into it. Let's
Mhm.
hold that to be 190% true, that its gold standard is concretized into our nation's operating system. The problem becomes that is not common knowledge to understand the framework under which we need to approach this issue. So
Is
what that
that,
means
but
is that,
that's, I agree with that, but that's why I just urge you when you get a chance, when you
Yeah, we
read
need
it,
more awareness of
it's
that.
going, but
well,
that's it.
yeah,
Well,
so
I'm
Yeah.
trying to wake the people up, and some of us is, I love you guys, don't get me wrong. But for the rest of our people, I'm just starting to shake my head, and I'm just going to be Chinese. I'm going to identify as Chinese for real. Because our people are just so, that's going to be my pronouns, Chinese.
Well, if you
But
can't beat them, join them.
I'm
so let me be clear. The point is that people don't know. That's one thing, but it doesn't matter what the citizens know if the government won't acknowledge it, and we cannot handle our government. When I say handle, I mean put our hands around the officials
Mm-hmm.
and move them to where we need them to be if they
Mm-hmm.
are in denial that this is truly what's governing their actions at the border, right? I'm not saying that this isn't really what's the truth. I'm saying that if we're not on the same page, we're just going to be fighting the whole time. So if this thing is really what's driving the country to let people in and to give them certain resources at the border, let's just get on one accord about that. But it doesn't start
Mm-hmm.
honestly as much with us having to just all read this, this document, as much as we have to have the politicians or the folks who are actually we're going to beat up on. I don't want to say physically, but I mean the folks we need to influence. They need to acknowledge that's where they are right now. Guess what? Both sides are talking as if they have total autonomy to authoritatively change border law, right? They've never said anything about that compact. So they've
and they're
never
not
used that
going
as a
to.
defense.
They're
And
not
that,
going.
if that's the case, listen, if that's the case, then if we, and let me
And
pause. Why would
because
they not?
they're part of the problem. They're part of the agenda. I've been studying this stuff for almost 40 years. I'm 58 now. I started at 17. I have read every. Oh God, one day y'all got to come and look at my library. I'm telling you, they not going to tell you, but it's out there. I am a researcher. I find out everything. You
No,
know what I
yeah,
mean?
I
Because
feel you,
that's
Nun
who
Dare,
I
but
am.
well,
But
we
I'm
know that.
telling you
Yeah.
everything that's in there, and they're not going to tell you why. They don't care about you.
So what are
That's
we doing,
obvious.
right? That means you got to remove them from the board entirely. If we have people who are operating
Yeah.
And
under a
that's the
basis,
only thing you have to, and that's what you have to do. And you have to start with your local government and your senators and your
Mm-hmm.
House of Representatives. You have to, all of them need to go, except for about three of them. That's a fact. They need to be removed, all of
It's
them,
so
except for about
systemic. We
three.
got to remove the subflooring. It's so systemic. And whether you look at maybe an America First candidate or maybe someone who can't be bought and sold, who can't be like bought and paid for, that's just going to be really, it's not impossible, but yeah, a lot of
But
these
as
candidates,
but as we wake up the American people, well, try to, because some of them dumber than a bag of rocks. But anyway, as you try to wake up the
but,
people
but we got to do more than wake the people up, as not
and
rocket science was
get
saying.
a
We got
movement.
to,
Listen.
yeah.
I was talking about the Illuminati in the 80s in the hood. They thought I was crazy. 30 years later, they was like, "All that stuff you was talking about is true." I said, "Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know.
Oh yeah. Oh, Nun Dare. Hold on. We're not rocket science. He
Okay.
has to head out. He's on a time limit. So
Oh,
not
I'm
rocket
sorry. I
science.
apologize. I
No, all
apologize.
good. All good. Because I'm all for it. We got to just not rocket science. Any last?
No, I ain't got no last words for y'all. Really, I just appreciate the conversation. I thank everyone for their contributions and allowing me to be part of it. And let's do it again in the future. Thank you, y'all.
Oh
Thanks for
yeah,
coming
for
back,
sure.
bro.
Nice
Yep. We
meeting you,
got
Rocket Science. Have a great evening.
we got the also the black men and black women for Kamala Harris. I mean, not for Kamala Harris. We officially got a date for that. I think we kind of had a discussion on how we want to do a multiple, do one more than one show, because everybody may not be able to make one show. There's different people we've been reaching out to. Everybody, may not be able to listen to every show or even participate. So definitely that call is coming up. Me and Conspiracy Brother decided next show, which would be episode 32, Sunday, September 29th, will be our first Black men and Black women not for Kamala Harris call. And we're going to try and make it a town hall style, maybe do it over Zoom, maybe add a clubhouse element or call in element. We're still going to work out the details and make it a roundtable discussion. And then hopefully that should be the first and not the last of maybe one we can connect with another organization. I know Conspiracy Brother you're in. I didn't want to, put it on blast if you guys want to, talk that out first. Um, but yeah, just a heads up. And guys, we got just 2 topics left. I cut out a few topics just for the sake of time. So only topics we got left is Candace Owens YouTube suspension for speaking out against Israel, and any predictions on the September 18th Trump conviction. So those are the only 2. Still have time. We could talk about Candace Owens' YouTube suspension for speaking out on Israel, and then we could wrap it up with our predictions on the Trump September 18th sentencing. I guess we'll get to Candace Owens. Once again, she got suspended off of YouTube a few days ago. And all I will say, they, that's all I'm going to say is the fact that it's like you could say they now, and then that's like, oh, you mean Zionists or whatever. But I say that to say there's a pattern. Okay. When she interviewed, I forgot his name, it was Rabbi somebody on the Daily Wire. It
Shmuley
was her last.
Botea.
Who?
Oh no. Oh, not that guy, huh?
No,
Oh
it was
yeah,
the
I know
other
who
Rabbi
you're
guy.
talking about.
Shmuley. Rabbi
No,
Shmuley
no.
or something.
Well,
The
Rabbi
other guy
Shmuley,
who was trying to act like he was all cool with her and stuff, and they just had a few minor differences.
yeah,
Then
he
he ended up like
interviewed.
turned into a complete monster.
Yeah, I forgot the rabbi's name's escaping me, but she interviewed him. It was her last. It was like her second to the last Daily Wire show, and I think that was the final straw that they kicked her off a Daily Wire. And once again, we all know we don't agree with everything Candace Owens says. It's things that I roll when I hear it. But it's funny how she was kicked off of that show, a Daily Wire, a couple days after sitting down with that rabbi, and then a few months later she's kicked off of YouTube for having the Rabbi Shmuley debate on Piers Morgan. So once again,
But and she's
yeah.
married to a Jew, so that's crazy to me. I think she's gonna get her channel back personally. That's all I got to say. I think she's gonna get it back.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think eventually she's going to get it back. I think that overall, I think that to brother, I know I'll definitely let both of you guys kind of. I want to kind of just set the stage. Is the fact that it's a free marketplace. As much as I may disagree with some of Candace's views, I do agree with things such as like her stance on Ukraine, calling out a lot of the COVID stuff. She was at the Diddy Revolt Summit in 2019 talking about the migrant crisis and the effect it could have on Black folks. Now look at Chicago and New York. So she was like 3-5 years ahead on stuff, while at the same time she's pretty critical on Black culture, on some things that are destructive for the community. I think some of her takes on like there's no systemic racism or some of that stuff obviously is hogwash. But I think she has the right for her platform to be debated in the public square. And as much as you disagree with somebody's stances on certain issues, all free speech needs to be out there to debate and to be ratioed uh, equally under our free speech banner. So as much as people may hate Candace Owens and she's been spot on about Israel lately, it just goes to show YouTube's going to do what it does. The censorship complex is alive and well. And as soon as she has this debate with Rabbi Shmuley, which this guy I cannot stand, like I could see, like I never agreed more with Candace Owens or Piers Morgan in my life. It kind of terrified me. But you see this pattern
I
of
agree with you
what's the
on that.
cost of
I agree
speaking
with
out.
both of them
But
too.
but yeah, go ahead. Yep, whoever wants to go.
No, I agree with what you just
Yeah,
said. I agree with both of them too, and I can't stand Pierce Morgan.
yeah.
But when I saw that, actually, I looked at it today,
Mhm.
and but she's not. I agree with some things Candace said, but you know, but you do have a right to say what you want to say. But as we hear, because it's only two things stopping us for the New World Order to come in completely. It's going to be complete censorship. So this is what you're seeing now. Because did you hear about T-Mobile now that if you put any hate speech on your text messages, that they're going to start doing something that just came out. I just saw it today. Blew
But
my
define
mind.
hate speech. That's not even real. That's not even like a real. That's just a made up like
But
last 10 years.
what I'm saying is
What's hate speech?
they're monitoring your text message now. So we're moving right in. It's only two things that's stopping the New World Order: the Patriots and Iran. Once that's done, and we're about to see them wipe out the Patriots, because civil war and racial war is coming up next. Watch what I tell you. We saw.
Yeah, you right on that because that's what's happening to the UK. We're always a few years ahead of the UK. They opened their borders a few years before they did. They did all the gender ideology with trans and the kids, and there's so many lawsuits now going on of detransitioners suing the doctors. So
Yeah.
you can always look at the UK and see that we're going to be 3-5 years ahead of them. And me and Conspiracy Brother also talked about uh, we also talked about the UK riots with
The
the
migrant.
yeah, the migrants against the natives, and how the three girls were stabbed. And while
Mm-hmm.
the guy that
Yep.
stabbed them wasn't a migrant technically, he was a child of Somalian immigrants. It still
Exactly.
goes to show generally later you flood
Yep.
streets
But
people
that's
who
coming
aren't
to
from
it.
there with those customs, who aren't respectful or at least trying to learn the values of those lands. And that's what you get as a result. And the country, the US is always, you want to look at where the US is going, look at the UK. We're only a few years behind. I want to just
Right.
add in that point.
And
You
this
know.
is one big and look, just like the C word 19,
Hmm.
one big experiment. Who will comply?
Right.
See, I didn't get that thing.
Yeah. So not to get
I
too off
didn't comply.
topic,
I don't
but
comply with
yeah.
nothing. So if you say
Yeah.
the sky blue, I'm probably gonna say it's red just because I just can't comply with nothing.
Oh yeah, there's some things you can't unsee. Like once you learn about something the government lied about, then you go, damn, what else were they lying to us about? You peel
Oh
back the onion, you peel
wow.
back the layers. So once again, back to Candace Owens. Once again,
Yeah,
I don't
sorry
agree with
about
her at
that.
everything, but she's been spot on about Ukraine corruption, COVID, the migrant crisis. I can disagree with some stuff, because once again, people have Candace derangement syndrome, people got Trump derangement syndrome, Israel derangement syndrome, even Biden derangement syndrome. I know that Biden's just a puppet for the bigger Democrat uniparty, but this conservatives, far right conservatives that still got Biden and Kamala, they think world's gonna end just with Kamala when she's just a puppet of the establishment. But yeah, conspiracy brother. If you wanted to give your thoughts on this Candace Owens YouTube suspension and the bigger threat, as much as people may not like Candace Owens, what this says about free speech.
Well, I want to say one thing first about the migrant situation. In the
All right.
80s, there was a shortage of nurses. I believe it was like black nurses.
Uh,
And what they did is they imported a lot of nurses from the Caribbean, Jamaica, and stuff like that in order to meet the quotas for black nurses. What they could have done, what they should have done, is found ways to educate the black people who already lived in this country. But this is the thing that I've talked about with my dad a lot. America has concocted this idea of the melting pot and diversification. And that really ain't how America is, right? The melting pot historically was all the people from Europe come over here and you melt together into one whiteness. If you was Spanish, if you was French, if you was Italian, if you was German, if you was Irish, if you was Swedish, you come over here and you melt into a singular whiteness. That's America. What you have seen happen now with all these enclaves is something different. It was always the melting pot of the whiteness of America, and then it was Negroes. That was it. If you lived in like Oklahoma or something, it was Indians. If you lived in the Southwest, it was Mexicans too. But the history of this country is black people and white people. And the melting pot was the white people. But now they have tried to create this false diversity, through programs like DEI, or initiatives, not programs, but initiatives like DEI, where you have, you have I think I talked about it in the last show, the judge overseeing the Google antitrust cases like an Indian, and so you try to treat this like, yeah, you could just come to America as just one big, giant diversity ball. No, man, no. There are enough people who live here, who are born here, who have been here for however long, that can fulfill all the job requirements that we have in this country. But at the bottom of it all is exploitation. You cannot, and I'm not even going to say like Nun Dare with the treaty for the. I haven't read this or heard about this in the same. I may have heard about it in passing from some of the shows I watch, but that's the only way, in my opinion, that you can explain this. Why are they continually importing people into places in Europe and here, and they don't have the means or the desire to help their own citizens? But you're going out of your way to bend over backwards to help migrants, whether you destroyed their home countries or not. I would even say more so, if you've destroyed their home countries, why are you interested in helping these people? Unless there's some kind of concerted effort to destabilize every country around the world into like some kind of one world government situation.
Exactly. Thank you. Exactly. That is it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But even like, when Biden, this is when he was running for president, when he was speaking to civil rights leaders, remember, he was like kind of really disrespecting them. He said, in the future, everybody, the Hispanics is going to be the majority of the population. And then they talked about, eventually everybody's just going to be all one shade of brown. It's going to just be brown. Everybody's going to be so mixed up. We're all just going to be brown.
Diversity is our strength. You will own nothing.
Yeah, that's some fantasy they've concocted, because the history of America is, as I've said earlier, the history of America is white people and black people. If you live in places like Oklahoma or Minnesota or South Dakota, some parts of Wisconsin, some parts of northern Michigan, you got some Indians. You live in the Southwest, you got some Mexicans. That's America. All this stuff with the Chinese and all this. Yes, they've had Chinatowns throughout the country and little enclaves, but you didn't have no Chinese judges. You didn't have no Japanese judges, no Indian judges, no Korean judges. You see what I'm saying? That was really isolated to small pockets of the country. But now you see they're trying to force this diversity, and they're trying to put a face somewhere, some person of color somewhere, in order to try to really, I think, confuse everybody and everything, right? America needs to do a better job of taking care of the people that are already here. They could start, first of all, by not doing these wars that destabilize these countries and let those people. But again, like Nun Dare was saying, if the objective is to create this one world society, you're going to keep destabilizing because the objective is bigger than anything we can see on the ground. You
Facts.
see what I'm saying?
Facts.
Yeah.
If we
Well,
still
very well
operate,
put.
and this is the reason why, sometimes some of this seems like a futile situation that we're under. And you could almost talk yourself out of fighting back because it feels like the machine is too powerful to, like in the Matrix. We need a Neo or something somewhere, and we don't have one. It's like the machine is too big. But like I said, be the change you want to see in the world. We have to have people who are willing and aware enough who will wake up and say, enough is enough, no more. I'm not going to stay here and deal with this. And we're going to fight back. And so far, we ain't got to that point yet, and hopefully we will. But I've lost a lot of confidence in humanity after that, after the virus situation, the way people responded to the vaccine, the way people responded to the lockdowns and the restrictions of movement and the imposition of digital ID and all that stuff. I've really lost a lot. I've lost a lot of confidence in people. A lot.
You know what, conspiracy brother? I totally agree. I actually lost friends. I really did. Because I could not believe the amount of Christians. Christian, the Bible says God does not give you a spirit of fear, but power and a sound mind. I'm like, y'all been laying hands on the sick, healing the people. I was like, listen, where's your faith now? But you want to be, I choose not to be a part of an experiment. I will not be a part of an experiment. All the information I have on biological, chemical warfare, I'm about to start dropping this information. Oh, Lord, YouTube, God, I don't know how I'm going to do it.
Go
But
ahead.
I'm going to start with the experiment from slavery with Dr. Mims, who didn't even use anesthesia on black women to come up with the gynecological tools. I'm starting from the 1800s on up. I named every experiment that they have done on the people, even in the army. I choose not to participate in an experiment. I'm willing to listen, to go to the grave. I would die for what I believe in, and I raise my children the same way. You stand on what you believe in, point blank, even if you the only one. And I'm the only one at my job about Trump anyway, and they get on my nerve. They so ignorant. But anyway.
Oh no, great point.
But I just want to say I have lost all hope in humanity, and especially our people, because I couldn't believe how scared people. I was like, and I kept telling them, it's a flu. It's just a new version of the flu. We all had COVID in our house. Oh, I'm not supposed to say that. The C word in our house.
And it was strong.
My God. Okay.
Nun Dare?
Yeah,
Yeah, I had to sneeze. Go ahead.
Conspiracy brother.
I mean, that's what they've done. They've created a situation where you can't even talk about, things that we have seen with our own eyes and experience. But it's unfortunate that we don't have more people who can see through the BS and stand up for what they believe in, what they claim to believe in. That's the thing about the Bible for a lot of people. It's a book that everybody believe until it's time to put it into action. Then it's you forget all about it. So that's the unfortunate reality.
Yeah, good point. And I do want to mention, not to get too off topic, I know we got one more topic left with the Trump sentencing. I believe maybe the date got pushed after the election. But even with the whole Nun Dare, we talked about people, like even Christians, kind of cowering to the COVID. A lot of that is based on social conditioning, really the infiltration of the church long before COVID. There's a book by, she's over at the Daily Wire, but it's still pretty interesting. Megan Basham. She put out a book called Shepherds for Sale. And they talk about the left-wing infiltration of the evangelical church.
Oh, you
on
don't want me to
how
get started on that.
I know I don't, because I
Oh
want
yeah, because
to
I can.
finish the show.
It all started. Wait, it started. I got to
Wait.
say this part now.
Okay. Okay.
It's
All right.
just one sentence. I swear to
All
God,
right.
it's just
All
one
right.
sentence.
All right. All right.
It started with Bush when he
Hmm.
gave them churches the faith-based money. Everybody who took
Yeah, I
that money
remember that.
sold. They sold from Jake's to all the big ones. Jesse the Plant, all of those pastors with those mega churches, even Joel Osteen, who took that faith-based money, they sold right then and there. Satan
Hmm.
preached every Sunday.
Oh yeah, for sure. They co-opted David French, these other evangelicals that are escaping me. They just became like these never Trumpers, and
Right,
then you
and then
slowly
you,
start to
then you,
see.
then they
Uh,
wait, then they paid them to take them to the clinic to get the whatchamacallit.
exactly.
So they
What
all
abortion?
bought and
Yeah.
sold too. So that's all I'm gonna say because I can go
Yeah.
deep on that, but I'm
And
not. I'm not. I'm not.
I
I'm
know
not.
for sure, and I say that to say, even though this was kind of a more so a analysis of the evangelical church, how long have the left been co-opting the black church and kind of convincing black people as a whole or black Christians to fight the LGBTQ cause, to fight everything that isn't even in our interests. We're once again we're being convinced that the Democrat agenda, like open borders, LGBTQ, and all this stuff, is for Black Christians.
I
When it's
gotta
not,
say one more
it has
thing
nothing to
now.
do with that. But it's that same co-opting that's going on with our people that the evangelicals are talking about. But yeah,
I
what you about
gotta
to say?
say one more thing. If you stop
Mhm.
with the topics, I'll stop remembering stuff. I have told my Christian friends that everything that the Democratic Party stands for now is against God. But you
Yeah,
say you Christian, everything transgender,
that part,
puberty blockers,
that
tampons in
part.
the boys' bathroom,
Telling
drag
you,
queen story time. Uh, what's the main? This another one. What everything they stand for is an abomination to God. Now you make it make sense to me, and then they don't have nothing to say. Trump is a racist. That's all you got. That's it.
yeah, Trump tend to Republicans and Democrats like Trump's racist. Oh, is that new? Did Trump invent racism? You know. But yeah, we can go on forever. But I guess anybody's last thoughts on Candace Owens' YouTube suspension? Once again, free
Oh,
speech is couldn't be any more at stake right now, especially with the whole
well,
Israel situation. But yeah, before we move on, yeah,
this is to me, it's an example of the reality of the situation with a lot of these people on the right who are free speech proponents or so-called free speech proponents,
supposed, yeah,
right? Because just like the left, when you say something that offends them, they want you fired, they want you disbanded, they want you deplatformed. And so, for the most part, every group is really just um, they're just lying. They're liars. But I mean, even for her, she put a tweet up. Somebody posted it on YouTube, but she was saying something like she was acknowledging how they're fine when you call out black people. When you say anything about Jews, then they have a fit.
yep,
And I
that's
think I
facts
posted a
too.
screenshot in our group.
That's
But it's
facts too.
even on her part that she was complicit in degrading black society or the black community. She was fine to do that, but when it came time for her to return the favor to other communities who could stand to have some talking down to, she got muscled out of there, and nobody seems to have really made a big deal about it. I mean, she's complaining about it at whatever level she can, but this is the situation. That's why I like to be fair and I like to be honest and truthful. But I also understand that if there are enough voices calling my community out, I don't need to add to the chorus. I can try to find some new information to talk about
Hmm.
that maybe they're not covering because they're focused on me so much, So
All right, great point. All right, great. We're gonna move on, y'all. Once again, Uncomfy Truths. We do live streams bi-weekly on weekends, mainly Sundays as of late. Feel free to check us out. We got a new channel cover photo up there. See a couple familiar faces, been on the show. So we're on YouTube. We got to work on our YouTube banner. It's a little cropped up. But we're on YouTube, Odyssey, and then, like I mentioned, Rumble. So definitely check us out. We're also going to have a Black Men and Kamala, Black Men and Black Women Not for Kamala Harris town hall. Is going to be coming up next episode. Hopefully, it's the first of many. We at least maybe do 1, 2, or 3 of them before the election, just as a final Hail Mary. So we at least say we told you so if you end up getting Kamala in. So I could at least sleep at night knowing I did everything I could if she get in, because she could win. Let's not underestimate. There's a lot of, like you mentioned, Nun Dare, enough normies out there that just get, whatever Dems tell them to do, they do it. So, all right, last discussion, the Trump sentencing. Apparently, the sentencing has been delayed again. This is very interesting. Because basically, initially, he was supposed to be sentenced based on the New York case. Judge Sean, whose daughter, they've been fundraising off this case. He has more conflictions. He should have refuted himself from even being on the case. But apparently, the sentencing was supposed to be in mid-July. That got pushed back to September. And then now they pushed it back to after the election. So I guess they're finally
Right.
starting to realize they can't just blatantly be this authoritarian, because people are starting to realize, like, this is pretty political. So
But
those are just my thoughts. But yeah,
yeah,
go ahead.
he's under
Mhm.
Judge Merchan. He under investigation. They prying into his financials.
Good. About time.
Yeah, so he's under investigation. That's one way. And plus, after the Supreme Court ruled that presidents have immunity, partial immunity if it was covered in while he was in office. So they never had a case in the first place. So I don't even see this coming to. I don't see anything coming out of it now at all.
Yeah,
And
it's not looking good.
I hope they find everything they need to find under Merchan. Yeah, but he's under investigation.
Well, see,
Yep.
and this is another situation with that judge. I believe he's Venezuelan or Colombian. Why are we
Ooh.
allowing people who are first generation foreigners to hold positions in this country
Dual
of power
citizenship.
and authority?
Yep.
Yeah, dual citizenship shouldn't be legal. If you're holding any type of government positions or jobs and you've had dual citizenship within a certain period of time, you shouldn't be able to do it.
You shouldn't hold any sort of public office.
No
influence.
public office, and maybe even
I agree
certain
with
government
that
jobs
totally.
you should be disqualified from.
I agree with that totally. I don't care if you got dual citizenship
So
with
he wasn't
Israel.
born. I thought he was born here. That his parents weren't. I could be mistaken now.
No, as far as I know, he's Colombian or Venezuelan.
Wow, I'm about to look it up. Wow, I didn't even know that. Thank you for that.
Yep. But the other thing I'll say about this is, like, remember that chick on CNN, that Dr. Wing, that Chinese doctor who was like super authoritarian? She was like, no, you should have kids getting shots and they should wear masks and stuff. And then she came on like a year or two after and said that her son had a lot of learning delays because of the masking. It had a negative effect on her. And so it's like, oh, now you can see it when it's your kid, but when it wasn't my kid, I didn't wear that. I didn't do that stuff.
Yeah,
I didn't do that stuff at all. We only wore masks. Like, they had to wear them in school when they went in person. And
even that
I only
was
made
wrong.
them wear them. Yeah. But I only made them wear them while it was totally mandatory because it was at school. Otherwise, they didn't wear them. We didn't wear them outside. We didn't wear them. And I didn't go into any places of business that required me to wear a mask. So if I had to go to the grocery store and they needed me to wear a mask, I didn't go in there. I didn't shop in those restaurants, nothing, because I know it was all BS. So if it was somewhere I couldn't travel to or anything, I wasn't going because I knew it was BS and I didn't want to give those people my money or my business. So,
Facts.
my kids didn't wear masks all the time. So their speech has not really been affected. Their learning has, because me and my wife made sure that we did exercises with our kids and read to them and stuff. So I can honestly say that their development hasn't gotten any worse, thankfully. Right? Thankfully that I had the foresight to make these decisions. But, for how many people didn't have that? They didn't have parents who read the news and looked at things objectively and determined this doesn't make any sense. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have my kids getting vaccinated, right? Even DPSCD, so Detroit Public Schools, they wanted to be able to perform COVID tests on the kids. And I said, no. I said, I will give my child a test, but you cannot give them a test, right? I said, I will take her to get a test once a week if that's necessary, but y'all can't do it. And it turned out the program was the company was from Ann Arbor. And I think the person who was CEO graduated from Michigan or had some connection to the University of Michigan. And they were the ones that were doing all this testing. So I talked to, talked to somebody with the school board, or not the school board, but the school district about the testing. And I said, are these tests, are they going to be keeping any of these samples to do DNA checks or anything with it? And you know what they told me? They said they're not supposed to. So that means they were doing it. You see what I'm saying? What do I look like giving you access to my child's DNA?
Wow.
Right.
That's why I won't do any of that ancestry stuff, because they keep your,
Right.
you ain't going to be able to identify me. I'm not
Exactly.
giving you my DNA.
Exactly. So how many people's parents didn't have that perspective? How many people's parents didn't say, hey, I don't want you having access to my child's DNA or genetic profile? You see what I'm saying? So I don't do any of that stuff. I'm not doing, I got an ancestry kit my sister bought me for Christmas like 3 or 4 years ago. And I still haven't used it because they control your DNA. They can sell it. They can sell it to pharmaceutical companies. They can give it to law enforcement. And that's a violation of my Fourth Amendment rights. And then here's the crazy part. So I know I'm getting on a tangent and going down a rabbit hole. But the CEO of YouTube, the one who just died, Susan Wojcicki, I think is her name. She just died from cancer. Now, after that vaccine or jab,
wait, who just died? You cut out a bit. Who just died?
The CEO of YouTube, Susan
Right,
Wojcicki.
that's why Elon
yeah.
Musk is talking about buying YouTube.
Oh, yeah. I hope he does.
Died. She just died of cancer, right?
And let me tell you, after that, I got to say this, after that, cancer went up 1,000%.
Yeah.
All we got to do is look back at her screenshots
I got a couple
on social
of my
media.
co-workers that got clotting, almost got a foot cut off. A couple of them got cancer right now.
Right.
So how do you have a person?
How do you have a person with that much money, that much access to good medical care, and then randomly that die of cancer at 50 something? No, man.
They're all wondering
that was
why.
That stuff.
They're all wondering
that was that
why.
Stuff. But her sister is the CEO, or was the CEO of either 23andMe or Ancestry DNA, or what's the other one? I forget. Anyway, she admitted to putting African, like when they do the genetic profile, she admitted to putting African, a certain percentage of African blood or DNA in white people's test results.
You know why? It's they still using Loretta leaks from the 40s, 50s cells.
Oh yeah.
You see, because our genetics are superior. They know that. That's why they doing it. Listen, this is fear of the Blackamoor Messiah. Fact, I'm gonna talk about that. Yes, they doing that.
She admitted to doing it. She
Our
admitted
genetics
that
are superior, point blank, period.
She admitted to putting black DNA, or not black DNA, but like black, like African, like a certain, like 1% of African ancestry in for people who didn't actually have any. It was either 23andMe or Ancestry.com DNA. That was her sister. You know, so these people are all intermixed. They all do weird, shady stuff, and we all suffer the consequences.
But it's always it's many subsets, but the whole goal is the one world order, the new world order.
Yeah.
It's many subsets, and I'm gonna start breaking that down. So I'm just gonna go all the way in. But yeah, because right now I'm dealing with secret societies, and my last one on that gonna be the Black Boule, the Divine Nine. Did you ever But anyway, listen. Like I said, this is just to bring about the agenda. And Agenda 2030, we so close. And if you look at this, nobody is going to own a home. These BlackRock is funding Jezebel as we speak. So yeah, that part.
Buying up these houses. And I guess I'm gonna pose this question because I know we kind of talked about with this Trump thing. Obviously, Trump is probably the least establishment person, even though once again there's been talks of him owning parts of having some stock, or not stock, but just some sort of financial interest in Pfizer. Once again, he has some establishment ties. He's pro. Um, so what do you think his fact that they're still coming after him, they're now delaying the sentencing? I guess the Democrats are realizing, like, yeah, I mean, we've been trying to kill him once or twice, and if we sentence him right before the election, then we may guarantee a Trump win. So what do you think this sentencing delay and this whole lawfare against Trump? What do you think is the big picture? Do they just ultimately want to try and get rid of him because he's the biggest threat to this new world order? I want to kind of pose that question, kind of as we wrap up
Even
here.
though he has
Yeah.
ties to the establishment, he's a patriot. He really loves
Right.
America. That's the
Right.
problem. He is a patriot. The last things, like I said before, that are standing before this thing to come to completion until God come and destroy it. Which, look, California got earthquakes every day. I keep telling you to leave.
I know. I'm
Listen,
working on it. I
but
felt a
listen.
few this week.
Yep. But it's the Patriots and Iran. And hopefully that's why I pray for the man, because you know what the Simpsons already showed on their program about him. So yeah, they're gonna continue to do this. He can't be controlled. New Gingrich, I'll never forget when he came, and this is during the 2016, and he said, this is what he said verbatim. Trump is not going to win. He is not an establishment man. He said that on Fox News. I almost fell out the bed. And I said, he the man for the job. And now he has Newt Gingrich is all behind him now. So,
Well, yeah, like I said, I mean, there's no perfect candidate. Again, if Trump gets elected back in, a moderate, a pretty moderate, decent second term at best. I mean, in a perfect world, I would vote like conspiracy brother was saying earlier. I would vote for like a Dr. Cornel West, even though he's a little more socialist than I would prefer, or even RFK. But I think Trump can at least slow this down. I think overall, putting Trump back in is at least putting like a thicker band-aid on a gunshot wound. It can kind of slow some things down. There's some America First policies that at least have a enough of a common interest that can benefit Black people as far as getting food prices down, gas. We're not going to get reparations from a Trump presidency, but
I
it's
don't
enough to
know.
where it can
Wait a
slow
minute
things
now.
down.
I think, yes, he definitely going to slow it, but
It can
she going
slow
to speed
things
it.
down.
She going to speed
Well, yeah, she
everything
gonna
up.
speed us up. Yeah, exactly.
Right,
Trump can
but
slow things down, but I don't want to put him like on the savior. Trump's gonna come in on a white horse and save us. He can at least
no, but
slow some things down.
well, let me just tell you this:
Yeah.
2025 gonna be bad, and 2026
Yeah.
gonna be bad, no matter who in there. Point
Right.
blank, because
Right.
this thing gotta crash, and it's gonna crash. Now that I said that, um
Mm.
Trump would be the one to give reparations, and that's my opinion because this man finally. I watched one of his speeches. I don't watch him like I used to because it's the
Do you
same
think
thing
Trump?
over and
You think
over
Trump would
again.
actually?
Yes,
You think
I
Trump
do,
would
and let me tell you
sign
why.
reparations? Okay.
Yes, I do, and let me tell you why.
All right. I'll let you go. All right.
Nobody else is gonna do it, but he said African Americans have never gotten the credit of what they have done to build this country. They were far most very important during that time, and they never got their full due or credit. And at that point, I said, "See, people don't miss the bigger picture. If somebody
When did he
came up with
say
their,
that? When did he say that though?
I'll send you the clip. This was about a month ago. I'll send you
Mm.
the clip. Blew my mind. And then at that point, I said, now see, he'll be the one if you came up with a bill that defined it and you're gonna have to cross your I's, dot your T's. Yeah, he would. I believe he would. Based on what
Okay.
he said on that, because nobody has ever said that about us.
Send me that clip. I'm
I gotta
intrigued.
find it. I'll send it to you. I got it.
All right. All right, conspiracy brother. Anything before we wrap up? Maybe
Yeah,
what's
I
Trump's
actually heard something
role?
about that.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Hmm.
I can't remember. I can't remember what show I was watching,
Hmm.
but they talked about Trump saying that. I cannot remember what show it was. It might have been Jimmy Dore, but I don't think it was.
God knows mainstream media ain't gonna let that get out. So no wonder
Oh
that
no.
got buried. You know.
Mm-hmm. So,
Okay.
yeah, but we'll see how things play out. As far as the sentencing and stuff, because it's hard to put anything past him now. You didn't try to get rid of the guy 3 times. You know.
Yeah, it's like, man, it's like this. They're like, this orange thing just won't die. God damn it.
Right.
You know. So I think once again, this is strategic where I think they're realizing, all right, we weren't able to kill him, and look at what happened after we convicted him, after we indicted him, a sentencing before the election. If that ain't political interference, so that can backfire beyond anything they can imagine. I imagine. So that's the reason.
And
It's
if
just
you
purely
think that
political,
these
you know.
And if you think these patriots ain't gonna cut up this time, you thought in your constitution says when your government become a tyrant, you have a right to revolt.
Hell, I might join them. Shit, at this
Let me
point,
tell you, this time.
I got a little heat ready
But
for them.
see, this is what they was. But see, this is what they want
Mm-hmm.
because chaos. Then you gonna have because I know I did a video on martial laws coming.
Mm-hmm.
Lockdowns is coming back. Oh yeah, we about to be locked down, martial law. Because after all the rioting that's gonna take place, it's gonna be so terrible. Here come martial law, and the lockdowns coming because they about to release this. I think I sent it to you.
Them
The
lockdowns
name of
coming.
the new
Them
virus
lockdowns
that's
coming
coming
back like
2025. No, Bill Gates just released this
what
thing.
I'm saying. The
Gave it
lockdowns they're gonna come back like the flu. Like the flu took a 2 year vacation.
right. No,
Lockdowns
but
coming
it's
back
gonna
too.
hit. It's hitting next year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's going to be worse. They had the name. I think I just sent you the video. He gave the name of it. Talking about it's a simulation. Yeah, everything simulation. The World Economic Forum does seem to come to pass, doesn't it?
Yep.
But
It's
here, I got to Yeah, I think I just sent. I think I did because I sent that out to everybody.
well, as long as I get back to
If I
Michigan
didn't,
before
I'm about to send it to you now.
shit hits the fan, I'll be back in the mitten hopefully pretty soon. Next month or
Right,
two.
because
We'll
some
see.
earthquakes hitting there every day. Every
Yeah, I've been
day.
feeling them. Yeah, I felt a couple this week.
Because
But
I'm
all
going to
right.
tell you, California ain't going to be there.
Wait, what was it?
California not going to be there.
Yeah, it's gonna break off in the ocean. I know.
It
Yeah,
is. No, it really is. And part of the East Coast going to be gone too. Listen, God is not playing.
I know. Gotta get
He
back.
ain't playing.
Great
And
Lake's gonna be left standing with all the water. You're gonna have all the water. We're gonna have all the water. Cause I'll be back before it happens. Yeah.
yep. Let
But
me see. I'm about to
anyway,
send you this clip right now.
all right. We gotta gonna wrap this thing up. But all right, guys, great show. Once again, Uncomfy Truths. Any closing words? A lot of great things we talked about this evening. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm getting tired. I mean, who am I to get tired? It's like 11,
Right, you
12:30
young.
where
I'm the
y'all
one
at.
old. I'm the one
Yeah.
old. I do want to say, conspiracy, brother, what you said as related to that judge
Yeah,
situation,
that was great.
awesome. I didn't even think of it that way.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I didn't even see that. You know what I mean? And your
yeah.
perspective was great. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on just to voice my views. I really appreciate that. Like I said before, I learned so much from you guys, and that perspective was great. That really opened my eyes. So I appreciate both of
Well,
you.
I'm glad.
You know.
I'm glad that this space can be a place to share ideas and conversations that we might not normally get to have.
Yes.
And I hope we're
Yeah,
all learning from each other, you know.
we are, man.
Yes.
And that's what it's about.
'Cause I know
Changing
you tell
hearts
me
and
some stuff.
minds.
You
Yeah.
tell me some stuff that I'm not all the way up on. I have a little bit of, I might have a little bit of insight, but not to the level you do. So it's definitely appreciated that, you know, we can share these moments.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And make sure you, when I send this to you, make sure you send it to Conspiracy Brother, because I'm going
Oh
back
yeah,
on
for
my
sure.
Instagram. Yeah, because
Yeah.
this blew my mind. I said, here we go. I just did a video on lockdowns coming back because they've been doing voluntary lockdowns now.
Yeah,
Mhm.
what's that EEE they're talking about happening in like in New England, like Massachusetts, that equine encephalopathy or something,
Yeah, yep,
encephalitis or
yep, yep,
encephalopathy,
yep.
lapathy.
From the mosquito. Well, Bill
Mm-hmm.
Gates released 1 million GMO mosquitoes. And
Yeah,
they carrying
well,
everything, I'm sure.
that's what Bill Gates is talking about. They're talking about it on Jimmy Dore.
No,
Bill
but
Gates is trying to get the.
this is a new respiratory virus that he talking about. Now it's a name on. I'm trying to find my Instagram on my
Is it
other
EEE?
phone.
That's not EEE.
No, nope. Matter of fact, I'm about to play it for you. It's only 3 seconds. Hold on, because I sent it
But
out
they
to everybody. Here it is. Hold on.
Yeah, well, the one I'm talking about is Eastern equine encephalitis,
Oh, that don't sound
No,
good.
sleeping sickness.
no, that's right, but that's not the one. Oh, I sent it to
This
myself.
is the one I was saying was happening in like New England.
Right. I know what you're talking about, but that's not I thought that was gonna be the one, but no. Okay, hold on.
Oh.
Hold on. Here it go. Here it go. Here it is. Now y'all listen. It's real quick.
This is the video that Bill Gates put together along with the team, complete with simulated news reports like this. This is really what they're preparing for us. This video is called Get Ready. Watch. Catastrophic contagion of global challenge.
Two Latin American countries alerted the WHO of several outbreaks of a new infectious disease that's mysteriously appearing across the region. Severe epidemic enterovirus respiratory syndrome 2025.
Oh, so that's the name, guys. Just write this down. That'll be the name of it, okay? It's SEERS. It's going to be called the Severe Epidemic Enterovirus Respiratory Syndrome, and 2025 is when we'll see it, okay? Now, it says at the bottom, this is a fictional scenario, but
Just in time for Trump.
this is the video.
Exactly. I'm sending it to you now. Hold on.
They're gonna run the same playbook.
Simulated.
They do the same things over and over again, even when they, because it works. So when they want to get rid of you, it's gunshot, drug overdose, plane crash, car crash. Same scenario because it works.
Share that.
As long as it keep working, they're not gonna change the playbook.
Share that in our group chat, and that also reminds me of kind of like a lot of the black boulets they got rid of, like the Ron Brown, Mickey Leland,
Well,
who was like,
Bill Clinton got rid of him.
Well, yeah, they were Divine Nine, but basically they would talk about like MLK, Ron Brown, Mickey Leland. When you start talking about they want you as black leaders, like the propped up black leaders that are, you know, Jewish financed, to only talk about domestic, keep it
And,
domestic, civil rights. Don't start speaking out on foreign policy. That's when they unalive Ron Brown, Mickey Leland, and MLK. They were all Boule Divine Nine guys.
did you ever start
Yeah.
looking at Steve Coakley?
Yeah. I watched one of his. I sent a couple of the
Okay.
Conspiracy Brothers as well, and
Yes.
I gotta
That
watch the longer one, the
Conspiracy
older
brother,
one.
I started going to see Steve Coakley. This why I didn't become my grandmother, aka, and I got plenty family, AKAs.
Right. Oh
I was
yeah,
an
I did
AKA
too.
teen, but I started
Mhm.
going to see Steve Coakley in the early 90s.
Mm.
And I never knew about the Black Boule, but I learned from
Oh,
him, and they finally got rid of him in the 2000s. But when he turned me on, I was blown away. Didn't know nothing about, but I actually went to see. He always came to Operation Get Down on the East Side on Grass shit when he came to Detroit. I was
Mhm.
there every one. I didn't miss him when he used to.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
See,
Oh, Conspiracy Brother, you go. Yeah.
well, yeah, I was to say, yeah, I checked him out after Conservative Brother sent me some of his stuff, so I definitely I I some of that stuff I knew and I'd heard before, but he gave a lot of more information, more in-depth information than I had for a
Right.
lot of it.
Yeah, he goes
And
deep.
that's why
He goes deep.
That's why I never supported the NAACP. NAACP was funded by the Rothschilds. W.E.B. Du Bois, I used to love him, got every book by him, but he sold out and he was part of the assassination of Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey.
Oh.
So when you go deep into this, it was only one black on that board when the NAACP was founded. It was W.E.B. Du Bois. And the rest of them was all um fake Jews. Okay. I
Mm.
should say that. That Ashkenazi. Let me just Zionist. Zionist.
They
That's the word.
they don't get,
Zionist.
you know.
I know. That's why I had to change that Zionist YouTube. Zionist. But they
Well,
were
even
Zionists.
that, they trying to form Zion.
He was the only black on that board. And after when I found that out, I never support. I do not support them at all.
Hmm.
If you say you part of
Well,
that, I'm
y'all,
like, okay. All right, that's it. I ain't saying nothing else. All right. I love
no, all
y'all.
good. This
I'm
is
about to
great.
get down. I'm tired. It's
Love
12.
y'all too. Yeah, I want to send you guys off. I know it's late over there on the East Coast, but great discussion, everybody. Uncomfy Truths, episode 31 in the bag. Next week, well, 2 weeks from now, we're going to be doing Sunday, September 29th. We got to start making some. We'll give out more details, but it will be a entirely episode dedicated black men and black women, not for Kamala Harris call, town hall style. So we'll have more details on that. Our first fully dedicated episode to one very important topic. So look out for that, and I'll keep you all posted. Me and Conspiracy Brother as we continue planning that out with rocket science, not rocket science, brother. So that's all I got. Conspiracy, brother.
Yeah, so glad to be able to have this opportunity to share with y'all information and listen to new information and give our perspectives about things. You may not agree with everything we said. You may not believe everything we say, but we encourage you to research, to look up, and to see for yourself.
Yeah, don't take our
That's
word
the best
for it.
way. Yeah, that's the best way to have any of these doubts you may have cleared up.
Yeah.
Anything anybody says that you may think sounds a little far-fetched, might sound a little outlandish, look it up. Look it up yourself.
Oh,
I encourage that. If you find any discrepancies between what we said and what you find, let us know and we'll have a conversation about it. So appreciate y'all. Appreciate you listeners. And that's all I got.
yep. Do some real research too. First 10 results of Google search doesn't count. All right.
No, because those are all promoted.
Exactly. The X-Files says the truth is out there. I say the receipts are out there and they're not in the first 10 results of Google. So everybody, great show. Once again, Nun Dare, thanks for coming through. You've been one of our favorite reoccurring guests. So appreciate it, and hopefully you can come back as much as you want. You know.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity. I love you guys. I'm dropping down. I gotta go to bed.
All right.
Okay.
All right. See y'all later. Great show.
All right. Peace, everybody.
All right. Peace.